across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon to you. It's a Thursday. JK at the controls on Drive. Talk, of course, the home of free speech and common sense. And thank you very much indeed to Dr. David Bull, DDB. Yes, named after a car. Back tomorrow afternoon, in a week for Ian Collinson doing a fantastic job. But the next 3 hours, my friends, as ever, on this fantastic station, are down to you. There's so much to talk about. And I never ever set my stall out and pretend that I know everything. I'm more interested in your opinions. What do you want to talk about? The US stock market plunges. The world holds its breath as Donald Trump unveils worldwide tariffs. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Phone me, text me, email me. I'll tell you how in a second. Tell me I'm an absolute idiot. But is Donald Trump not doing what Donald Trump said he was going to do for the American people? He's putting them first. He's making sure that they achieve financially what they should achieve for their goods. He's putting his country at the forefront. I would respectfully suggest that we might try doing that in the United Kingdom. I thought that's what leaving Brexit was all about. There are people saying that the Brexit division saved Britain from the worst of the tariffs that he's going to imply against the European Union. What do I know? But I will tell you this. I would love to have a leader who stood up and had the courage and the conviction to say, I'm going to put Britain's people first. I'm going to make them safer. I'm going to make them better off. I'm going to talk about tax deductions, not tax rises. I'm going to make sure that the British people are safe on the streets, and I'm going to make sure that the services that the British people pay for, and people get really angry when I do this, right? Here's the thing, right? The things that we pay for, we surely should benefit from. The A-team are here with an excellent addition. Our Jody, fresh from Liverpool's rather jammy victory against Everton, 0344 499 1000. Lanky Ryan, who he didn't want to tell his wife, but he's just lost the extension to their house by back in Constitution Hill at Aintree. He's here. You can send him a voice note, 0344 499 1000. Smiley Aim is in therapy. She's been replaced by the Charlton fan. Sammy is back. It's good to have you back, Sam. Top man. It'll sound professional and smooth today, and Amy would be frowning if she was here because he's far better. I'm only joking. Who's on the other buttons? Some bloke. Titus. The other day, Titus, who's a very important part of the show, as my hearing goes with my age, I thought somebody said his name was Titus, so there you are. But Titus pushing the buttons. So, get going, 0344 499 1000. It is, of course, the telephone number, the WhatsApp number, and 87222. Start your message with the word talk. So we could talk about Trump's tariffs. We could talk about this one. I mean, this is extraordinary. An Al-Qaeda mastermind linked to the 7/7 attacks is set to walk free in Britain, despite cops saying he remains a risk. Haroon Aswat, 50, cannot be fully assessed by the British justice system due to his mental health treatment. Right, so he blew people up, he should be in prison, he's played whatever card he's playing, and he's free to roam the streets. This is also the same country, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the story that I think is really, really the one that should annoy as many people today as it's annoyed me. In a Talk exclusive, we can reveal that thousands of European women living in the UK, that's European women, are returning back to their home countries to give birth, but claiming the costs on the NHS. An investigation by us found that nearly 4,000 women had their babies abroad over the last 5 years, costing the NHS, oh my God, Jesus, 3.1 million quid. There we are again. How many people in this country have paid and cannot see a doctor, cannot get an appointment, and yet people are going home to their other country and then coming back, and we are paying for it. Add into that the fact that Birmingham is rotting. I mean, it is rotting. Never mind. It's rotting with their bin crisis. Add into that also Ryan's favourite story that Britain, England, the United Kingdom is going to be hotter than the Algarve this weekend, unless you're going to Newcastle when it'll be cold. 0344 499 1000. So much to talk about. We'll set our stall out, and we'll start with a man who is never known to not have an opinion, the former MEP and Brexiteer and chairman of Great British PAC. I say a very good afternoon on a Thursday to Ben Habib. How are you, boy?
Good afternoon, Jeremy. Good to see you.
You're looking like you've been out on the gallops, or you're watching the cricket and you're slightly chilly there. What's going on?
I'm on holiday but I couldn't say no when I was invited to come on your show.
You're very
and
kind.
I've been out in the sun actually all day, which is...
You just relax, Ben. It's fine. Don't you worry about me. Mate, thank you for joining us this afternoon. The one thing that we always have, you and I, is this affinity to try and put the British people first. All I read about is global market chaos, all eyes on the stock market. The American stock market is going to plunge. We're all going to be screwed. Donald Trump's being grossly unfair by putting these tariffs. Tell me and educate me that I'm wrong. Is he not just putting the American people first? Am I alone in thinking that I would crave a leader in this country that will put the people of this country first, Ben Habib?
Well, I completely agree with you. I think there is a brigade of people on the centre-right of politics who argue for free trade come hell or high water. But I think they are missing the point. Over the last 30, 40 years, we've had what I would call unbridled global free trade. And that has been to the detriment, significantly, of the United Kingdom and the United States of America, where we've got very high standards, very high regulations, high taxation. Other countries exporting to us don't have those same high standards. And we've basically thrown the door open to them and allowed them to sell to us whatever it is they wish to sell. And one of the biggest culprits, at least as far as the UK is concerned, is the European Union.
Yep.
The German economy has benefited greatly from an artificially weak euro, and the European Central Bank that basically through the back door funds banks across Europe, including notably Germany. And as a result of this largesse by the EU, effectively Germany has been what I would call dumping German goods on the British market for the last 30 years. And we've run £100 billion deficit with Germany. Now, the free trade fanatics would say, Ben, you don't get it. Overall, it's much better to have free trade because consumers get a better deal, etc. But what happens when you have this unbridled form of free trade and goods being sold to you from countries that don't have your high standards more cheaply is that you lose the ability to produce them at home.
Absolutely.
So you get redundancies, you lose your industrial ability, and we've seen this right across the United Kingdom, and it makes you vulnerable as a country. We don't have our own steel plants. We're soon going to, be reliant entirely on China.
Can I jump in and say something to you about why I said... I don't want to get too deep. I'm not like that. But one of the reasons that I was supportive of Brexit was... And I used this analogy yesterday, and certain people thought I was mad, and others said you're absolutely right. After the Second World War, when Germany was rightly crushed, it went into itself. It had to, because of everything that it had done and the way that the world reacted. It turned itself into one of the most successful economies. You think about Bosch, you think about its cars, BMW, you think about everything that the German economy was able to do. I believed, after Brexit, this is what I thought. I thought, I don't want to be controlled by Europe. I want us to go into ourselves, prove that we can make things that are absolutely fantastic, that the rest of the world wants to buy. That will create growth and money and jobs, and that is exactly the way forward, rather than being, if you like, in hock to people who tell us what we can make and how much we should charge. But we've stalled on that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think Trump's wrong for the American people. I really don't.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, he's yanking the pendulum back towards American producers. For the last 30, 40 years, as I say, the American economy has been assaulted by people from abroad selling into its markets goods made more cheaply because they've got cheap labor, lower regulations, etc. China. And the other side of this is that we've enriched China. We've allowed China geopolitically to become a very significant military power. It was nothing compared to the United States in terms of military might 30 years ago. And now it is a capable military country, and we've got to be very careful how we enrich the rest of the world at our own expense.
Absolutely. Let me jump in. Let me jump in and read two things and then play Starmer's response. It's quite interesting. A couple of quick texts for us to think about. Michelle says, in my opinion, everything that Trump is doing is to force the Federal Reserve to lower the inflation rate. I would say give it a few months and the American economy will see a massive boom. Don't disagree with that. Another email says, Trump has called out Labour regarding their attack on free speech and said, if we want free speech, if you want free trade, we have to have free speech. This is very exciting. I know you're on holiday. This is what Sir Keir Starmer has said about Trump's tariffs. Have a listen, my friends.
On the separate issue of tariffs, we are taking a calm approach acting in the national interest. And the national interest is to continue our negotiations for a deal with the US, which we made big progress on, and to ensure that we work with the sectors and the industries most impacted. And that's why, amongst other things, I had a round table for some of those businesses this morning. But we must act in the national interest. A trade war is in nobody's interest, in my view. But of course, we have to protect ourselves, and that's why we're keeping all options on the table.
Ben Habib, good to have you on. Very briefly, a calm approach. Nothing's off the table. It's all about nothing at all that comes out of his mouth. There's nothing substantial in that, is there at all?
Well, if he did nothing now, that would be the best response. The EU is going to respond to the United States. They said that they're going to put on tariffs going the other way, which may result then in a trade war between the US and the EU. And nothing, frankly, Jeremy, in the long term could be more beneficial to the United Kingdom than a trade war between the EU and the US, because we will get, through no effort of our own, no good governance by our own government, but we will then start seeing European businesses locating to the United Kingdom because we have a beneficial relationship with the US. And the other benefit that will come out of this is that we as a country, which, as a Brexiteer, I'm fully in favor of, will start looking across the Atlantic as our natural trading partner, because the EU will be stuck in a morass of difficulties in the trade war that it's about to have with the United States.
And it is very interesting. Somebody also said to me yesterday, in 2017, Theresa May was offered a deal by Trump in the first presidency, a trade deal, and we dithered and we dathered. It might well be, and you're absolutely right, I want to move on, but you're absolutely right, it might be that the payback for us is to keep quiet, let Europe go to war with America. And again, though, it does come back to this, Ben, we have to be in this country, we have to make stuff, make it cost effectively, make good quality stuff, that whether it's America or the West, they want to bloody well buy. That's the whole point.
And Trump may have done the job for us, inadvertently. He may have done the job for us, which is terrific.
This is interesting. Christopher says, oh, God, let's get real, guys. The Western world has binged on cheap goods for decades, and to think that somehow a US consumer is suddenly going to go, oh, I'm happy to pay more because it's now being produced by somebody else. I don't see it. Thank you, Christopher. Right, here's some stuff that will get you goat, Ben Habib, on a Thursday afternoon. An Al-Qaeda mastermind linked to the 7/7 attack is set to walk free in Britain, despite cops saying he remains a risk. Haroon Aswat, 50, cannot be fully assessed by the British justice system due to mental health treatment. The ex-Abu Hamza accomplice jailed in the US will leave a secure unit for Yorkshire. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phipps said he could still be a real danger. Aswat helped hate preacher Hamza set up a US terror camp whilst jailed in the US in 2022. He told a shrink, I'm a terrorist, and said he'd kill Jews, Christians and Muslim enemies if they let him out or deported him. Honestly, mate, can you explain to me what's wrong with this country? Because it happens to me every day.
It's an absolute absurdity. In our pursuit of human rights, we seem to protect criminals and not victims. This man is a blooming terrorist. He's vowed to go on killing. Why is he out of jail? To the extent that he's able to get out of jail, he should be deported to whichever country he came from. Next, someone's going to tell me he's a British citizen. Which is
next somebody's going to tell me that if he went back to the country that he came from, they would judge him as a terrorist and they would treat him badly. So we better leave him here because, precisely, good.
Yeah.
I don't
We've given succor to this notion that inalienable human rights effectively allow you to be a serial criminal and get away with it and not be deported, not be treated. And I think, actually, frankly, you are giving up your entitlement to certain rights when you do things like this, when you're a criminal.
Yes.
Frankly, at any level, any form of criminality should result in you ceding parts of your rights that you would otherwise have as a law-abiding citizen.
I can't believe we live in a country that was nearly last week going to say that if you're from a different ethnic minority or religious group or a sexual group or you've done this or you've done that, that you should be excused. Where I come from, you commit a crime, you have to face the consequences. On the back of that, Ben, this talk exclusive today, which is extraordinary and says so much about the work the team does. Thousands of European women living in the UK are returning back to their home home countries to give birth, but claiming the costs on the NHS. This is 4,000 women over the last 4 years that's cost the NHS a staggering 3.1 million. And I'd love a response from those people who go, we need more money. No, you don't. You need to cut out rubbish like this, don't you?
And again, you know, it's linked into what we've just been discussing. This notion that all people are equal. It doesn't matter whether you're a British citizen, law-abiding or otherwise. Even if you're a foreigner, because you're a human being and you come to the UK, you get treatment equal, if not better, than British citizenry. And we've seen that just now with this brilliant bit of investigative journalism that Talk has done, revealing a bill of 3.1 million quid for women who aren't even having their babies yet, but are able to charge the NHS for it. It's an absurdity. Our nation, you know, understandably, we look at people who come to this country and we see that they're, in a sense, assaulting us economically and sometimes in a criminal way and so on. But actually, the biggest damage is being done by our own inability to recognize what we need to do for ourselves. We don't protect ourselves. We expose ourselves to being exploited. We don't enforce our borders. We don't reduce taxes. We don't cut regulations. We put a noose around our economy. We put a noose around the British people. And it comes back to precisely how you started this program. We need a government that will stand up for the United Kingdom, put the United Kingdom first, put the people here first. Once you get that into your head as a prime minister, everything else should flow naturally. I mean, the notion of the NHS putting out 3 million quid to women who aren't even British citizens, who've had their children abroad, is just absolutely absurd.
But you're so right when you talk about, you know, this obsession with certain politicians, prime ministers, governments to do right by seemingly all the people who, in my world, have neither paid nor shown the commitment that means that they should get that help. But what makes it worse is it's to the absolute detriment of people in this country. And we have politicians, Ben, you know this, who are so obsessed with focus groups, they don't say anything until they work out what the response is going to be. The reason that Trump, in my opinion, and you know, there are many people and there are many things about Donald Trump I don't like, right? But to stand up and say I'm going to put the American people first, that's why I'm doing the tariffs. I don't care. I don't care about any other country. They can go shoot themselves. I'm not bothered. This is about American people.
Absolutely.
I'm going to close the borders because of Americans and their fear of crime and the fact that they're missing out on the very, very social things, you know, those services that are so essential to all peoples across the world. Oh, we don't do that in this country. I mean, let me tell you a story very quickly that I heard this week. Do you know Tahir Ali is the MP for Birmingham? I mean, this just about sums up this country.
Yeah.
This rubbish crisis has left 3 million wheelie bins of waste rotting in the streets. There are rats the size of cats. This is plaguing neighbourhoods. Some of the footage is absolutely disgusting. Birmingham Council broke council tax through the roof. Tahir Ali, a Labour MP, a man who's supposed to represent the very, working people of Birmingham, and I spent 15 years in Birmingham, is not doing anything about the British people. He's currently backing a plan and has been flying backwards and forwards to Pakistan and raising money and trying to get a new airport built in Pakistan because people from his constituency go home were having a 3-hour drive from where they landed to where they lived. I don't understand. And we're paying him 100 grand a year.
It's absolutely absurd. And if you needed evidence that we're not being governed with the British national interest, there you have it.
Yeah.
And, you know, all these European leaders, von der Leyen included, throwing their hands up in horror, going, oh, my goodness, the US is imposing tariffs, this is a global trade war, this is this, this is that. It's because they are governing for the globe. They're not governing for their nations. You know, we shouldn't be fussed by what the US does. We should just react to it. We now need to react to the economic circumstances in which the United Kingdom finds itself. And let me tell you, nothing could be better. There could be no better opportunity than now to deregulate and cut taxes and meet the challenge that the US has set up. The US is saying it's going to put itself first. Well, the only way to survive that experience as the United Kingdom is to do exactly the same. And we should be putting tariffs on the EU. Can I just say we should be putting tariffs on the EU? We run a £100 billion deficit with the EU because of the way that they artificially lower the cost of German goods. We should put tariffs on the EU. Let's have it out. Let's put this country first.
I could not agree with you anymore, and I'm so chuffed. Thank you for taking 20 minutes. Well, listen, you need to come in from the sun so that you can have a pina colada and rest before you get back out again. The amazing Ben Habib, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us live from his holiday, 4:22, Thursday. What do you make of that? I mean, Ben and I would probably agree on those things very strongly. Many people on this station jumping up and down saying, this is outrageous. The stock market's going to... How dare Trump impose tariffs? He's doing right by his own people. I crave a British Prime Minister who does the same. Now all the naysayers are going to go, but we don't make stuff good enough. Well, we need to make it better then, because that's how you make an economy more successful. You need to make goods which provides jobs. You need to make goods that are productive and work and are attractive to the rest of the world. What's wrong with that? Put Britain first. Give me a politician that does that. Don't tell me that you can be somebody from a foreign European country who can screw the NHS for £3 million to have your baby in your homeland and then come back and get cough. Don't tell me you're going to release an Al-Qaeda terrorist because he's got mental health problems. He blew people up. Why don't we get stronger? Why don't we become, I don't know, a little bit more concerned about the people of this country? Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. 0344 499 1000. That's the telephone number. Text 87222. This is Talk Drive 423. Back in 3.
Since 1999, 101 of our fellow citizens have been murdered by terrorists, of whom 94 out of 101 were Islamist terrorists. That is the kind of risk we can't ignore, and where people like this come through the system, they should be properly risk assessed. And the fact the guy says he has a mental health condition, or maybe even has got a mental health condition, that should not prevent risk assessments being done.
And this is a problem, isn't it, for an awful lot of cases.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
7:26. Yes, it's a Thursday, and I'm here. I'm here because I wasn't here Tuesday. 0344 499 1000. Jodie's so happy I'm here. She's smiling. She's got a spring in her step, and her hat is at a jaunty angle. She's a happy bunny. Ryan's a bit hacked off with you, to be honest. He hasn't had a voice note yet. If you do want to send a voice note on WhatsApp, start it with Watford a crap. 0344 499 1000. Very quickly, can I just say hello to Brian, who says Starmer isn't staying calm about these tariffs. He just hasn't got a bloody clue what he's doing. Trump will have in for breakfast. Ben Habib is the man. Why don't we put Britain first? Few detractors, how can you say these things? Yesterday I got slaughtered, Sammy. You weren't here for saying we should fill in the Channel Tunnel. Then less people can come here uninvited. Listen, a very good afternoon. Oh, guest not ready yet. Let's go to a phone call. I love live radio. Let's go to Gloucester. David, you're on Talk Drive. A very good afternoon in the sunshine to you. How are you?
Good morning, Jezza. How are we?
Brilliant. Let's rewind, shall we? Let's start again. Let's go to David in Gloucester. A very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy.
Brilliant. You said good morning. I mean, you might have had a long day,
Sorry,
but no.
I said, yeah.
Yeah,
Good-
two brain cells and David would be a cactus plant, ladies and gentlemen. Right, let's crack on. What you got, pal?
Right, well, what I was thinking is Starmer doesn't need any help from Trump. He's got Rayner, Reeves and Millipede. We've got taxes and national insurance up. Employment rights going to mess everything up. Millipede with his energy security, allegedly, putting all our energy up. So therefore, all our costs for everything we make and produce is absolutely already got tariffs on.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting. My father-in-law, Rob, I've just heard from my mother-in-law, not that they rang me about my show the other night, but they sent me a text now. Rob's shouting at the TV saying he's been saying for ages, we need to make better goods in the United Kingdom. We have been absolutely guilty of accepting goods from other countries made by cheap labour. The whole idea of leaving the European Union was to say, do you know what? We're an island. We're not going to be governed or told what we can do, how much we can pay, what we should spend, what taxes. So why doesn't the British economy start firing itself up? Hey, I know why, but, you know, and make stuff and be productive and successful. I'll tell you why, for the very reasons that you just said, because we've got a government who are more interested in chasing a green net zero agenda that's going to bankrupt us, a government that wants to give workers rights that if they feel anxious they get 16 months off free pay or probably on double pay, and that doesn't help anybody, and they go on and on about growth. I agree with Ben Habib. Now is a really fantastic time to try and be successful, but has he got the stomach for it, Starmer? I don't think so. He talks rubbish, doesn't he?
Well, he's complete and utter rubbish. He's just lying to us again. We've changed governments, and all we've got is a bunch of absolute liars. I mean, what he's doing to the farmers is disgusting.
Dreadful.
I mean, you know, I'm a retired farmer myself, you know, and he's going to destroy farming, so therefore your food costs are going to go up as well.
Yeah, you know, when I hear about all these people going on about the farmers, and I sit here every day and I say it's a land grab and it's disgusting, it's just so they can build their stupid wind farms which won't create enough electricity. The one thing that and then it'll be imported and our bills will go up. The one thing I should say repeatedly is idiots like him don't understand the farming community in this country provide our food, you numbskull Starmer. And if you do what you're doing to the farmers, food prices will be up as well because we'll have to import that as well. He just doesn't, I don't think he gets it. I don't think he gets it. It's not rocket science, is it?
No, completely, you know. And I mean, you know, and if they're worried about, you know, the wildlife and everything, I mean, I had to wander around a solar farm a few years ago, and it's incredibly sterile, you know, because all it is just poles in the ground, one after another, you know, with bits of concrete obviously holding them all in. And there's no wildlife or anything. There's nothing there, you know, whereas if you walk into a field of wheat, barley, you know, or anything, you know, there's so much life in it.
Good man, David in Gloucester. I've got to go so I can come back. Good evening. Vernon's in Is he in Staffordshire? Vernon, how are you? A couple of minutes on Talk Drive. Very good afternoon, sir.
Greetings, Mr. Kyle. Excellent show. I just love the Donald and his passion for his country.
Yes.
If only we had 1% of that with our politicians in power.
Oh, hold on a second. If you are tuning in, it's suddenly gone dark behind me. We're now in the night time. It's the sunniest day of the year, and somebody's... Oh, we're back. Vernon, I agree. I mean, what I don't understand is everybody is up in arms, and for me, unless I'm missing the point, taking Trump's tariffs to one side, surely, as Ben said, now is the time that Britain should try and be competitive and successful and lead the way, instead of... I mean, you know, when Trump stood up and said, you know what, I'm not going to do what I've done in NATO anymore. I'm not going to pay more than everybody else to protect Europe. I'm going to protect myself against China and potentially Russia. Everybody went, oh my God, this is outrageous. Pay for yourself, increase your own defence spending, make better goods. I don't disagree with Trump at all.
The Donald is doing what he wants to do for his country. That is all he's interested in, Jeremy.
I agree.
His country. That's all.
Good to have you. Oh, sorry, go on. What?
Why should America pay for European security? It's nothing to do with them. The Germans, the English, British, everyone's got their own money. Time to defend themselves, Jeremy. And this tariff issue is just a negotiation. Everyone stay nice and calm, and it'll be a level playing field, courtesy of the Donald.
I could not agree more. Thank you for being on. Vernon in Staffordshire, 0344 499 1000. On the phones, we'll get some more on in a sec. Now, though, this is lovely. Thursday afternoon. A top migration expert, former MEP, good friend of the show, Stephen Wolfe. A very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm not bad for a balding 60-year-old has-been, but I'm not going to get too deep into this tariff thing. I agree with Ben Habib. Sorry, I really agree with Ben Habib. Donald Trump is putting America first. Would I not love a Prime Minister who would say, I'll tell you what, let's not bitch and moan. Let's get our heads down. Let's make more goods that are successful and attractive and we can sell in the United Kingdom. Let's patent stuff. Let's employ people. Let's get back to work. Let's do what we did and lead like the Industrial Revolution. Let's prove to the world that we're not the poodle of America and we can be successful.
With that sort of energy, Jeremy, I'd love to see you in the cabinet with Ben, and I'll be joining you trying to deal with the home office immigration issues, because that's exactly what this country needs. It needs the passion, it needs the love of the nation, it needs to understand that we've got to reduce taxes, reduce the pressures on employers, improve training with our apprenticeship schemes, but making them effective, not defective as many of them are now. And let's look at our education system by pumping it into the right areas, removing the dogma of the programs that we're seeing adolescents, and really start looking at our adolescents with the skills and knowledge that they have. And that's the future then.
I almost feel like this country, this is sort of mini rant, but I don't mean it like that, but I almost feel that this country is down on itself because it's led by politicians, and I include the Tories, who are so ideologically based. I desperately crave a politician with warts and all who's got conviction, a person who's got a vision, who the public go, do you know what, you're worth a try. And they take you on that journey, and there might be good moments and bad moments, but puts the country first. I don't see that. I keep saying this. I see politicians who don't open their traps until a focus group has told them how that is going to be, received, what criticism they're going to get. There has to be, we hear about, schools are taught, you mustn't be disrespectful. There's 3-year-old toddlers being thrown out because they've been disrespectful to transgender people. What at 3? We've got Al-Qaeda terrorists being released because let's look after the perpetrators of crime, not the victims. There's all this crap going on with the greatest of respect. And I think it brings people down. I think that everybody's on a bit of a downer about the United Kingdom. Tim Sire from Suffolk, just as we're speaking. Jez, I'm listening about tariffs and trade. It seems that the UK needs to rewind to 1760 in the Industrial Revolution, where we led the industrial world and made all we needed ourselves, and the world was jealous. Wouldn't you love to be in that place again with a leader who actually said that? Now, maybe the cynics will go, Jez, that's not possible. But it'd be nice to instill a little bit of belief in people, Steve, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be, and we've had kings and leaders, both political and those on a spiritual level, that have actually believed in this nation. You look at the period of 1700s, that was led by kings that decided that we needed to expand across the globe. But prior to that, they decided they'd build a navy. The navy was the way to improve our trade. Now, we know that in this modern world, we need to have low energy costs. We need to invest in infrastructure related to technology, AI, which means building great cloud computing, having semiconductor factories brought here, but they also require huge amounts of energy. So why do we have an energy policy that is about increasing the cost of this nation through wind farms, whilst reducing, as you quite rightly said only 15 minutes ago, about reducing our farms because it's a land grab, not actually a food production line that they want. And it's that sort of leadership that has joined up thinking, but has the passion to believe that our farmers can produce the food, our scientists can produce the energy, produce the products, and those who are behind it are producing the energy and the expertise to sell abroad. Doing that together with a cabinet that's joined at the hip, working together for Britain, would be excessively successful.
Jeff says British policies over the years have been could have, should have and would have. I couldn't agree more. Let's talk about your expertise is migration and economic prosperity, or lack of it. Glasgow City Council's broken ground today. They've warned that the asylum system is putting strain on the city and impacting on social cohesion. Who knew? Well done, Glasgow. It's the largest dispersal area for asylum seekers in the UK after London, and right now nearly 4,000 people have been sent by the Home Office while their applications are processed. Many in emergency housing. Since February this year, another 1,000 people have been placed in Glasgow from other parts of the UK looking for homelessness support. The council says it's about time we were honest. It's stretching resources unbelievably, and very soon our city will become unsustainable. So all those people in Glasgow have paid their stamp and are desperately in need of help from their council, their government. They're getting nothing because migrants are being taken to Glasgow and stretching still further what's available, which isn't very good. That will be in every city in the United Kingdom soon, won't it?
Certainly is already, and we know that it happens in Newcastle. Birmingham only 18 months ago said to the government, we're not going to accept anymore because we're overstretched as well. But when I look at Glasgow and I look at Scotland, I actually say you are now reaping what you sow, because under the SNP, they stated that we were a migrants welcome nation. Under Glasgow, that said that we will be part of the dispersal programme with the government. We'll take them in as much as we can. And if you look at the council tax rises, Glasgow is one of the highest when you look at what's going to impact those constituents in the future because of their decisions that they made, rather than push back against the ideology that all immigration is great, all immigration is economically beneficial. If it was economically beneficial, they would be welcoming in more and more and more to make that part of Scotland extremely wealthy. They now know it's the opposite. It's a drain on resources. Housing is taken away from local constituents. Healthcare is reduced. Yeah. And you also see that the local people are put at the back of the queue, as we've got so many examples now. And when it comes to crime, we already know crime is rising in Scotland too, in those areas.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because that sort of sentence, that sort of paragraph you just delivered, 10 years ago, people would have been, oh, my God, this is abhorrent. No, it's not. It's absolutely true. If you continue, people don't like the word flood. If you continue to allow millions of people to come to your country who are not escaping war, the Ukrainians' different story. I say it every day because there was a very good reason for us to support those people. But this country is a haven for people. It's become a haven. There's so many loopholes. We give away far too much. But I will say this until they drag me from this studio. I'm sort of all right with that if we were on top of the world, but we're skint. We're struggling and we're skint. And Glasgow, look what happened in Germany very quickly. They opened the doors and they suddenly can't afford to do anything. And that is exactly the same. And I feel that it will be exactly the same across the rest of the United Kingdom. Steve, it's always a pleasure, mate. I could talk to you all day. Stephen, thank you. Stephen Wolfe, former MEP, migration expert, making the point. If you don't close your borders and stop people coming in, the resources you have will be stretched still further. And the people in this country who, they might be better people than me. They might be far more, oh, let's help everybody. Whether you like that or not, when you can't see a doctor, when you can't get any help, when you can't, you're going to get angry. That's what's happening. 20-5. It's a Thursday in the sunshine. I'm loving it. Sam, the Charlton fan, is here. He's smiling almost as much as Amy. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Back in 3.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Worth a watch and a listen. Kev here from 7 After Us. 0344 499 1000. So many people getting involved. Hello to Jeff Brewer. British politics is on it. Yeah, it is. Stuart's in Perthshire. I did that one. Jez, we can't have manufactured goods here again until people are willing to pay, for example, 90 quid for a pair of jeans rather than 15 quid at their supermarket. Sweatshops, sadly, rule much of the global economy. That's an interesting point. Hello to this man. I don't know. The government need to realise that the UK has some of the best engineers in the world. Starmer is the wrong fit for the United Kingdom. Zarina, good afternoon. As a nation, we're down because of decades of empty promises. Jez, lovely to see you. But what are you doing on a Thursday? I was expecting delicious Cardi P. He's in rehab. Rachel. Hello to Joanna. She's in Salisbury. Jez, maybe rather than turn on Trump, we need to turn on China and Russia with more tariffs. It would stop the Ukraine war and free the EU guards from slavery. We have this moment to rethink everything. Quite. Tim, I'm a UK veteran. Maybe Parliament needs more of us. Good afternoon to Graham, loving the show, and Jill from Salisbury. We're big in Salisbury. I agree, Stephen Wolfe. We need some MPs to listen to your words. So many of us agree with what Talk is saying. Talk is the home of common sense and free speech. Listen, whatever you think, whatever you want to get involved with, this is your show and your station. No judgment here. 0344 499 1000. Delighted to be joined now by former Labour Health Minister Lord Norman Warner. Norman, a very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Good afternoon.
You're looking very smart. Very, very smart this afternoon.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that.
I'm not going to have a go at you in any which way at all. I don't even want to talk about Starmer because I'll start ranting. There's an appalling story today.
Now, let's correct something. I was in the Labour Party. I left because of Jeremy Corbyn. So
good man. Do you think it's any better under Dreary to Keir Starmer or what?
Well, I don't usually go around abusing fellow politicians. So you're entitled to your view.
Well, no, I'm not abusing him. I'm just telling you the truth.
It didn't sound terribly complimentary, if I may say so.
Well, he is a farmer harmer, isn't he? He's upset the farmers. He's upset the veterans. He's ruined the lives of many pensioners.
I mean, his policies may be the wrong ones, but
I don't think it's abusive to call him two-tier. But Norman, two-tier is not a disrespectful comment. It's true. We've got a two-tier justice system. We've got a two-tier police system, it seems, under him. So I guess that's just the name that stuck. But listen.
Yeah, carry on.
Let's ask you about this Talk exclusive today that has risen. I mean, this has been in 5 years in the making. Thousands of European women living in the United Kingdom are returning back to their home countries to give birth by claiming the costs on the NHS. An investigation by Talk found that nearly 4,000 women, Norman, had their babies abroad over the past 5 years, costing the NHS a staggering £3.1 million. Now, a loophole allows foreign nationals who ordinarily reside in the UK with settled status to exploit the system by claiming for resources intended for Brits abroad. I get the distinct feeling, certainly from the people who listen and watch to this station, there's a growing frustration in this country from people who feel that they're getting towards the back of the queue in many instances. You'd understand that with that story.
Yeah, I can see that. I read the data your researchers sent me. I thought it was rather odd, in the sense that 4,000 people had their baby for £3 million. Now, I suspect that 4,000 mothers having their baby in the UK would have cost rather more than that, because that's less than £1,000 a birth. And I'd be very surprised if women went in, had a baby, stayed in 48 hours to recover, with discharged. I'd be very surprised if that cost the NHS a good deal more than £1,000 per baby. Now, I agree that the system sounds very odd, but I'm not sure that financially the NHS is losing a great deal of money. They may actually be having the babies cheaper than it would have been if they'd have stayed in the UK and had their baby here under the NHS.
What do you make generally then of the NHS? We had a massive talk yesterday on the station, on many stations in newspapers. There was one of those reports that comes out every year about people's satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the NHS. It showed that only 1 in 5, 21% of people think that the NHS is doing a good job. And then, of course, we get into this whole debate. Is it about more money? Is it about stripping it bare, getting rid of the huge catastrophic waste? What's your view, ex-Health Minister?
Well, I don't want to be bragging, but when I was a health minister, we had 70% satisfaction with the NHS. I don't claim personal responsibility for all that.
What's gone wrong?
But there's been a sad decline, and we did a lot by actually enforcing targets. And we did actually get people, for the overwhelming majority of people, never waited more than 4 hours in A&E. And certainly we were not having people being dealt with in A&E in corridors. Something has gone seriously wrong with the NHS.
What do you think that is, Norman? What do you think that is?
Well, I think the management at the centre can't claim a great deal of credit. I mean, I see that the NHS chief executive has been quietly retired, and there's a new guy taken over, of someone who I do know of, as I've got a great deal of respect for. But ever since COVID, we've just not moved the backlog of people.
Do you think that we make
the Conservatives or whether it's Labour, it's barely moved. It's 7 million or so waiting for attention.
Do you think that, I've always thought that the I don't know how you put this. I think the idea of free medical help at source is good, but do you not feel that it's now being made available to far too many people and missing the people who I would say very much deserve it in many instances?
Well, we're out on a limb compared with most European countries have got some kind of social insurance.
Yeah.
And we are one of the few, or certainly one of the few big countries that try to fund the NHS out of general taxation. So I think there is an issue, and there have been people of both parties who've argued that we should move, certainly for social care and for some of the less acute hospital treatments, that we should move to social insurance and start to accumulate the resources while people are working to pay for healthcare as they get older, healthcare and social care as they get older. And I think we are living on borrowed time on trying to fund the NHS out of a shrinking tax base, general tax base.
Do you think it's available to? Do you think it's available to people who it shouldn't be available to, who don't pay anything, don't pay their stamp, and don't get involved?
Well, I think it's quite difficult to argue with the rest of the country. I think that they should be subsidising people who have not contributed very much to the NHS. That's the beauty of the social insurance system. The social insurance system starts to take money off your payroll when you're younger to build up the funding to actually pay. And what we've got now is a system, even on the Health Secretary's own admission, is broken. And we can't keep parroting it's broken. We have to do something to mend it. And I suspect something now pretty dramatic, because we're living in a world where the economy is not growing. Whereas the bill from the NHS is growing.
Couldn't agree anymore. Lord Norman Warren, thank you very much indeed. Would love to take that further. Former Health Minister. This is interesting. 48-hour recovery in hospital after having a baby, maybe in the 70s, Lord Warner. I went home straight from delivery after my 4th baby in 2010. I also think Starmer's a granny harmer. 9 minutes to 5.
Mr. Big from 7-7, Haroon Aswat, aged 50, suffering from some mental health problems, apparently, is okay to be released back onto the streets of our country, even though he's actually got something called schizoaffective disorder.
I don't care about this person's poor mental health issues. I want at the very least to see him rot in a very unpleasant cell until his last miserable breath. And unless you have an extreme zero tolerance policy about this, we're going to see more and more terrorist attacks.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back, what is it, 6 minutes to 5? This is JK on Drive. Delighted to get all your calls and your texts. Thank you very much indeed. Please, this Warner guy going on about women having babies overseas is a joke. Why have we got to pay because they chose to have a baby in their own country? This is why our country is being screwed. Where does Stuart says, where does Lord Warner get his 48 hours in hospital? When both my kids were born, the mum was home before they'd even been there for 24 hours. Quite right, too. My mum, this is a true story. I was born in the front room of her old house. The old man felt sick, sat on the wall outside. Seriously, honestly, she gave birth. 20 minutes later, went downstairs and made him a cup of tea because he was slightly traumatised by the whole thing. The world's changed. Come on, Sammy and I feel this very strongly. 5 to 5. Very exciting. Couple of voice notes. John's in Texas. What, Texas Soup? What, actually in Texas? What's he doing there? Play it.
I've seen a lot of news presenters, including one of your colleagues, Ms. Petrie, mention that, is this how America treats its friends, meaning Great Britain? But what a lot of people don't understand is that Donald Trump is very good at dividing business from personal. In fact, there's the story of RFK needing a ride somewhere that Donald Trump was going as well. Donald Trump offered him a ride on his plane, and RFK's like, but I'm suing you in New York. And he said, well, if I didn't talk to people who were suing me, then I would have no one to talk to. So he's able to be very supportive of the British people and an Anglophile, while at the same time keeping business.
I like it, John in Texas. I don't know where Lewis is. Is he in Lewis? No, I don't know. Let's push his button.
I think one of the other things that people are completely missing on this whole cost of, having stuff made outside of the UK and stuff like that was the drive behind it. It was all about making the businesses and millionaires a lot richer, driving the prices down and using cheap labour to do it, right? So for me, this has been caused by businesses and people and directors and shareholders, and I think this needs to be taken into consideration because we're now in a terrible situation. I've been in industry for years, working in aerospace and stuff, and it is disgusting where we have to source some of our components from. We are not independent. If we go to war tomorrow, we are absolutely screwed in terms of engineering and the ability to produce things that will actually help.
And Lewis, that's the point in my opinion, and I agree with Ben Habib. Why don't we spend this time to, instead of staying calm and saying nothing, why don't we become independent? Why don't we prove to the world that we can be successful and make successful products that the world wants to buy? Luke is that Bromley or Burnley? Bromley. Famous for Pears soap. 2 minutes on Talk Drive. What you got?
Well, if ever there's been a time to rejoice in Brexit, here's another one, because it's now not just about sovereignty, it's also an economic reason. So grateful to Brexit.
Right, listen, you're going to have to do me a favour. You're going to have to move your fat mouth back from the phone and speak a bit louder because I can't hear hardly anything. I know I'm getting old.
OK, so I'm saying I'm grateful for Brexit. We've now got an economic reason to be grateful as well as a sovereignty reason.
Yeah.
And all the other things. Also, it's helped us to become 10% more competitive than the whole of Europe. How about that? Fantastic. So now European countries come set up in UK and you can sell to America 10% cheaper than if you did so in Europe. So let's look for investment. Let's also see ourselves as an opportunity to be able to sell ourselves to the world, to say, look, do trade through us, and you'll be better off. So great. It's also going to help hopefully reduce the sweatshops because obviously China are less competitive. So now we can increase the prices of how much we pay to people to produce decent quality stuff with decent quality.
Do you know, Luke, I love what you're saying. And I don't pretend, I'm not an expert, mate. You know far more than I do, but we I don't know what you think, but we seem to talk ourselves down. We seem to be led by politicians who are prepared to accept that we're not successful. And I would have thought that if the way to make a country grow is to sell things and employ people and watch that money filter down, and to be in hock to Europe or America, I like you, is this not a great opportunity to prove that we've got something about us, pal?
Absolutely. Look, if you write the words opportunity is nowhere with no gaps, and just move the line across, opportunity is now here with the same letters. It's all about how you look at things.
Yeah.
And here we are, you know, this is a UK PLC. It's given us a reason to stand out for the better.
Yeah.
It makes us more competitive. Let's use it. Let's seize the opportunity. And I'm very grateful for Brexit. Thank you very much.
Do you, just very quickly, my friend, and I really appreciate your call, do you, I haven't got much time, but like me, do you think, well, fair play, Trump, you're doing what's right by the American people? I want somebody to do what's right by the British people. Would you agree with that?
Yes, he's not president of the world, he's president of America, and so he needs to look out for you know, USA PLC as we need for UK. But great, and, you know, I'm glad he recognised we couldn't have done this if Brexit hadn't have happened.
Luke, I really, really appreciate the call. Thanks, mate. It was just difficult to hear at the beginning, but great to have you on the show, almost 5 o'clock. We're live across the UK. If you want to be part of the debate between now and 7, it's Drive Time with JK, 0344 499 1000. It keeps going black at the back. You can text 87222, start your message with the word talk. The news at 5 is next on Talk Drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
My friends, just gone 5 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Tell your friends about Talk. It's the home of free speech and common sense of the radio station and network that basically just says, look, be involved, tell us what you think. We're not going to judge you. So many people wanting to talk about so many things today. Trump's tariffs seem to focus people's minds. The whole of the world seems, oh, my God, this is outrageous. I love the line from that fantastic last caller, Luke, who said he's president of the United States, not president of the world. If you are an American citizen, if you are Donald Trump, you're saying, do you know what? I'm not going to pay more for Europe's security than those members of NATO. I am going to charge tariffs on my goods because I think my goods are that good. excuse the pun, that you lot will pay extra. I thought when we left Brexit, and I'm being completely honest, that this island would grab hold of itself and grow and become prosperous by not living under the control of people who had no right to tell us what to do, but we'd flourish and build things and make things and sell things, and the world would go, Britain's really impressive. But no, we're governed by a government who are interested in ideology and dogma and making sure that 3-year-olds don't get left in school because they've said something apparently that's anti-transgenderish or something. We've got people wandering the streets who are criminals. We let off people who commit crimes and do nothing for victims. We're screwing our public services because apparently we're more interested in net zero. I could go on forever. I think this entire government, in fact, I almost feel like the country as a whole is on a downer. I bet you if you live in America, apart from the Democrats, being serious, I should think it's quite a buoyant time thinking you've got a leader who's trying to make the most of your country and talk it up. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Chris is in Hereford. Very quickly, my friend. You're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you, Jeremy. I think he's putting the American people first. It's about time Mr. Starmer put the British people first. And it's refreshing that we all moan about tariffs and all that, but he's making sure his fellow Americans are not going to go starve or not going to go broke or anything like that.
The thing about Donald Trump, he's an egotistical person. I nearly said the wrong word. So for him, being at loggerheads with everybody, running the world, making sure all these people are running around going, oh my God, this is outrageous. What about tariffs? He doesn't care about that. That probably gets a kick out of that. But I would crave a conviction politician who says, and I've said it every day for as long as I've been here, who, irrespective of what's thrown at them, in the newspapers, opinion polls, even personally, they have a belief, they have a conviction. We had a Prime Minister once for 10 years called Margaret Thatcher who was like that. Thank you, Chris in Hereford. What do you make of it all, my friends? 0344 499 1000. Jez, great show. When you work on a Thursday, those damn gremlins seem to invade, or is Peter Cardwell messing with the wires? Steve's in Cambridge. Sorry, missed the first hour. Watching bloody Mullins win everything. Oh, yeah, that's true. Willie Mullins has won everything at Liverpool. You are the Mullins of the radio network. I don't know what he's on about. Christine, good afternoon. When Labour forced targets onto the A&E waiting times, many hospitals closed their A&E departments so they wouldn't have to meet any targets. Debbie Dobson is still enraged by Lord Norman Warner, who said, you know, I've worked this out, 48 hours in hospital. She said, 48-hour baby recovery in hospital after having a kid. Maybe in the 70s, mate. I went home straight from the delivery room after my number 4th baby in 2010. I'll tell you, a man who's a conviction politician, free from the shackles of responsibility. A very good afternoon to Sir John Redwood, former Conservative Cabinet Minister. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm fine, Jeremy. You're on fire. Fantastic, magnificent stuff. Yes, let's make more for ourselves. Let's do more for ourselves. Let's believe in our country. Let's grasp this Brexit opportunity. Yes. We are 10% cheaper than France or Germany selling into America now. We're 14% cheaper than Japan because of this tariff differential. Let's welcome that. Let's not throw it away with some half-baked retaliation alongside the EU so that we end up in the sin bin of Donald Trump with them. That would be a complete disaster. This is another opportunity. Brexit means we don't have to pay all those EU debts. They're borrowing 800 billion euros, not on our account anymore. We've got quite enough of our own debt. We're freed of all those extra contributions we had to make to their budget. Let's invest in Britain instead of running down our industry with this net zero nonsense policies they keep putting in.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that, because, listen, you've held the highest jobs in the land, in the cabinet, and I'm sat here an hour ago thinking, have I missed the point? I've heard call after call and show after show saying, oh, this is disgraceful, this is going to ruin the United Kingdom. I voted to leave the European Union, I'm being very, very honest, and I did it, John, because I didn't think that being told, you know, what we should charge or what we should pay or how many things we should make or how many people we should employ or what our laws should be or what our pound notes should look like. That's how old I am. All of that. I believed I was a Thatcherite kid, wasn't I? We were an island. I just believe that we've become down on ourselves, a succession of governments and politicians. And what has Starmer said today, John? He went, oh, well, I'm just staying calm. No, because Donald Trump he gets a kick out of all this. But you're so right. We're not in the European Union, which means all of a sudden we're far better off than they are. So why don't we... I used the example yesterday, John, right? Probably not a very good one, of after the Second World War. Germany, because they had to, went into themselves, right? And they created an economy that was the envy of the world within 30 or 40 years, whether it was Bosch, whether it was Mercedes, whether it was BMW. And everybody's like, my God, that's impressive. Why don't we do this now?
Well, we could do, and it's stopping bans and it's stopping high taxes and letting people get on with the job.
Yeah.
And we are deindustrializing at pace because they're going to ban all our petrol and diesel cars, which a lot of people around the world still want to buy. They won't let us get our oil and gas out of the ground. They're running down the steel industry because it creates too much carbon. We've done this before, you and I, Jeremy. It's complete madness to say, let's close everything down here that's industrial and import from China. It doesn't help the world, doesn't save us from CO2, and it gives us a huge bill. We don't have the jobs. This is what Trump is on about for America. He's pointed out that America has lost 10% of its share of world industry by buying lots of so-called cheap goods from China and Germany and places like that. And he's now saying, look, we ought to be making these things in America because we need the jobs, we need the tax revenue, we're borrowing too much, our deficit is too mighty. And he also points out, as one of your callers has just pointed out, that how do you defend yourself if you don't have the basic industry to make weapons if you really need them? And this is the danger now of America to a lesser extent and Europe and the UK to a major extent. We mustn't get dragged into a war because we certainly couldn't defend ourselves properly because we don't have the steelworks, we don't have the gun makers, the tank makers, the plane makers to put it out on the scale we did in the Second World War when we had to do it.
Do you get to a point? I mean, I'm not going to be rude. You're older than me, not only just, obviously. But do you get to a point where you think, maybe I was naive when I was growing up, but we're sort of proud to be British, and we sort of led the way. We seem to be this. We seem to become a sort of third world, not a third world, but the way we think about ourselves, the way we're talked about, our public services, the way we treat the people of this country. Everything seems to have slid into this sort of morass of misery and of course, people will go, Donald Trump. I mean, here's a question for you. You're a cabinet minister. Donald Trump has many faults, but there are many things that you'd look at and go, that's quite visionary. I mean, it's quite intelligent to go, we're paying this, we should be doing it for ourselves. I'm going to put Americans first.
That's exactly right. And I'm pleased a lot of your listeners are saying that is the job of the President of the United States. And we want Keir Starmer to do that for the United Kingdom. He should be mighty proud of the country he's inherited. It's quite right. Some of the things the last government did do and didn't do weren't right. And he's got to put those right. Well, that's the job. But he should be proud of the country and proud of all the people who, despite bad government, achieve things every day and go to work and make some money and make things happen and look after their neighbours and all the rest of it. There's a lot of good in this country. But government with high tax and misery politicians is making it far more difficult. And we've got these people rushing for the exit, people who've made a bit of money, millionaires, people who made a lot of money, billionaires, rushing to get out because it's now becoming so hostile to anyone who wants to do something, anyone who's positive, anyone who knows how to make money. And you've got to let people make and keep some of the money for themselves. And then, yes, the rich will pay most of the tax. That's quite fair. But if you try and overtax them, you find that 40 or 50% of nothing is nothing.
I love having you on this show. Here's a couple of things. Danny in Silsden in West Yorkshire says, I like what the last caller was saying, Jez, that we are now competitive, but unfortunately, if we don't scrap net zero, we'll never be. Having the most expensive energy in the world, how or why would you want to set up a business? Now, here's a test for you, Sir John Redwood, my favourite commentator. What happened 30 years ago this summer?
Well, you tell me. That's too difficult for me, Jeremy.
Oh, come on. Ian says, does John Redwood remember or realise it was 30 years ago this summer that he challenged John Major for the leadership of the Tory party? And if he'd won, maybe this country would have been in a different position. I love him, says Ian.
Yeah, well, that's nice of him. I didn't have enough support at the time, although we did quite well. And then I was generous in defeat and said, well, the man's won, so we live on with John Major. Yeah, it'd been a different vision, I tell you. And I would have been very positive because I do love this country. I think it's got great energy and great people. And it's been let down by a succession of bad governments. And it needs visionary leadership, positive leadership, leadership that is in the can-do mode in the way that you are saying. We need common sense as well.
Yeah,
and net zero, as your callers say, has given us the dearest energy prices in the advanced world.
How
so
can
yes,
that be
any
common
business that
sense,
needs
John?
a lot of energy is not going to work very well.
But I mean, here's a question for you. When you were in the cabinet, many people would say that you were able to see these things. Here's a question: do you think the British people? And I know they were hacked off with your party and they voted Labour in. And I mean, I've seen clips of Starmer going, you know, your council tax won't go up. Yeah. Do you think that any of the people that voted for Labour had any idea how catastrophic this new government would be? To be bankrupting us on this net zero whim, to be seemingly protecting criminals against victims, to just be making an ideological case to look after everybody, in my mind, except for the people they should be looking after.
Well, I don't think many are happy because we see their polling down to 21% in one of the most recent polls, an absolutely dire level of support for a fairly new government. And if you talk to people who have strong left-wing socialist principles, they feel let down because they don't feel it's socialist enough. But if you talk to anybody else, they see just how ruinous it is, that these huge water bills, these huge energy bills, this big national insurance hike, the fact that we are seeing falling vacancies, rising unemployment, rising inflation under this government. It is disastrous, whichever way you look at it. And it needn't be like that. Yeah. It was a bad budget that did it. It was the putting Ed Miliband in to double up all the aggravation of net zero when the previous government was beginning to learn from experience that it wasn't going to work. And we need to make a much bigger stride in the right directions. We've got to clear away bad net zero policies immediately. We've got to roll back those tax increases. And there is money there that we can use. I've told you in your programme before, the Bank of England losses are colossal. Stop some of the losses. That's the easy way of finding some money so that we don't have to tax pensioners and tax businesses into oblivion.
I couldn't agree more. A couple of stories that have sort of raised their ugly heads today, which I want to put to you. An al-Qaeda mastermind linked to the 7/7 bombings, remember those, is set to walk free in Britain, despite cops saying he remains a risk. Haroon Aswat, 50, Sir John, cannot be fully assessed by the justice system due to the fact that he says he's got mental health problems, so he's going to be released. This is a man... This is, again, I mean, for me, and for many people up and down the United Kingdom, they're going to go... Let me get this absolutely right. You can see the article there in The Sun, fantastic article. This gentleman, Haroon Aswat, right, is going to be allowed to go free despite reservations, and yet we imprison a woman for hurty words for 15 months. I mean, it's madness, isn't it? Utter madness.
It's complete madness, and it's driving everybody to despair. And I think the opposition have called today for a change in the law, if that's what it takes, so that this man can be properly assessed and we can feel that... our safety is being looked after, because it's very unsatisfactory to have the authorities saying we can't conduct the proper assessment. Well, then you shouldn't release him. You need to be able to go through the proper assessment and make sure that you know where he is at all times and make sure that he's not going to carry on as a terrorist in the way that he admits he was in the past.
Couldn't agree more. There's a story, well, it's a story that's been gathering pace over the last few months, to be honest. We all know that Birmingham City Council, Sir John, is skint. Its council rates of tax are going through the roof, and yet its rubbish crisis has left nearly 3 million wheelie bins on the streets of Birmingham, rubbish everywhere, rats the size of cats. And I did this on Plank of the Week, and I'm going to do it this afternoon with you as well. Do you know Tahir Ali?
No.
Tahir Ali is the Labour MP for Birmingham, and instead of spending time in the House of Commons dealing with trying to have some sort of answer to the fact that his residents and the people in his constituency have not had their rubbish collected and there's terrible, terrible things going on, you know, in major streets in Birmingham, he's currently putting a bill through Parliament and has spent most of his time in Pakistan trying to get money to be raised for us to pay to build an airport in Pakistan, so that people from his constituency, when they go home to Pakistan, don't have to drive for 3 hours to see their families. Now, you are out of this game now. We talk about governments and ideology. Let's talk about MPs. What the hell does that say to constituents? John, honestly, mate, what does that say when you're rubbish, you can't see out of your window, when kids and smells and all that he's in Pakistan trying to get support for an airport? It's ludicrous.
it's not doing the job, is it? He should understand that there's a crisis in his area, and he should be leading from the front. He should be trying to get some agreement between the workforce and the council. He should be talking to government ministers to see if they can help. And he should be there all the time for his constituents, because most of his constituents will be mainly worried about the health threat to them from all this rubbish building up. And Birmingham was one of quite a lot of councils of various parties who handled their finances appallingly. It's not that the government kept them short of money. The money going into local government kept on going up, billions and billions and billions.
How did the councils get it so wrong? Because you were the Environment Secretary for a while. Because that's the outtake by people. They say, oh, the Labour Party will say, well, you should have given councils more money. That's not true, is it?
No, of course it's not true. It's how they spend the money and how they abuse the money. I mean, an awful lot of councils have got close to bankruptcy by thinking they were really good investors and going and buying commercial property at the top of the market just before it fell away, or buying themselves into wind farms and solar farms thinking they're going to make money out of them. But they didn't know how to do it properly, and they're losing taxpayers'
So you're
money.
telling me that local councils would take money off central government, and instead of putting it into a bank account to pay for the services that people in those communities needed, they'd play with that money, in effect gamble it by investing in things and lose it, and then go back to the government and say, we're skint and it's your fault?
Yeah, that's exactly what they were doing. When I was an MP, I was so alarmed about this. I kept on banging on the doors of the Treasury to stop them doing it. Eventually, a ban was imposed on them buying property outside their own area, but they could still buy property inside their own area. But it's not the only kind of financial mistake they made. Some of them deposited money with banks that weren't safe. Some of them, like Birmingham, of course, didn't pay their staff enough and now lost a court case because they didn't understand equal pay rules. And so now there's a huge backward-looking bill because they employed too many people they couldn't afford to employ.
And Tahir Ali's constituents,
very expensive people, far too many so-called managers on six-figure salaries.
And Tahir Ali's constituents who see rubbish piling, their council tax bills going. That's the reality and the truth. John, I mean it. I love it. I love having you on. And do you know Louise at all?
Louise who?
You haven't sent this message yourself under the name of Louise. Louise says, let's be honest, John Redwood is the Prime Minister we never had, but we bloody well should have had in this country.
Well, that's very sweet of her. I'm glad I've got one supporter like that, Jeremy.
You've got two, mate. Me as well. Thanks for coming on, my friend. I'll see you very soon. Thank you, Sir John Redwood. It's just, for me, it's fascinating talking to him because free of the shackles, he was a cabinet minister as an MP, and he can see it and he can speak it just totally clearly. Kenny's in Edinburgh. Jez, what are the US going to slap tariffs on from the UK? We've got nothing to trade with. The government has given everything away completely. But think about what John said. Think about what Ben Habib said. We're not in the European Union now, right? They're going to have a trade war with the US. Let's just keep quiet. Let's make stuff because we're going to be 10% cheaper than the European Union. But oh no, we'll all be sat here saying, oh God, this government's bringing another bill. Workers' rights. They're all feeling anxious. They all need 6 months off. 0344 499 1000 521. We're live across the UK with Talk Drive.
Why has the National Crime Agency suddenly worked out that what everybody else knew is something that they've discovered.
How on earth can they be taking such a long time to wake up to what everyone else has known when they find 6 barbershops on their high street next door to each other with only 6 customers a week?
Right. A large Mercedes parked outside, usually.
Yeah, when we broke this story, the Daily Mail, we found a street with 22 barbershops, some just lined up literally like soldiers next to each other.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 5:23, we're live across the United Kingdom. Seriously, great to be involved. Thank you for we're going to go to Michael Graham in a US political commentator, always an incredible view, because we've just heard that the former Vice President, Mike Pence, has slammed Donald Trump's tariff plans. Of course you have, because you didn't get a job. 0344 499 1000. Seriously, though, no name to this. Jez, as someone caught up in the events of 7/7, I'm traumatised by the news about the release of this disgusting terrorist. I still have nightmares about it happening. It doesn't give a name. I was just saying to the gang, that was my 40th birthday, 7/7, and I was heading into London for a meeting, and we got stuck in that meeting for 12 hours. People lost their lives. And this story today of how an Al-Qaeda mastermind behind that, Haroon Aswat, 50, is going to be released, despite the fact that the police, they believe he's a threat, but no, we're going to release him because the justice system says that he's got mental health issues. So you can't properly assess him. So we'll just release him. It's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. Let's go to Oxford. It's always posh. John, good afternoon, sir. You're on Talk Drive.
Hiya, nice to talk with you. I found your station today, and I deliver cars up and down the country for a living. Now, I'm screaming at my radio because it's so nice to hear people talking the truth and not being afraid to speak their mind. Now, there's so many things I want to say. I'm just got so many comments to make about your show, but the fundamental one is I tried to get a hotel the other day in Ipswich. I had to do an overnight stay, and it was quite difficult to get a hotel. I ended up getting a bed and breakfast in the end. And the guy at the bed and breakfast said, have a look at this. He showed me a video of a local hotel, a very, very posh hotel with 102 rooms that are full of immigrants. Every room is taken. On site, they have 2 nurses and a doctor, 24 hours a day. They have just hot food from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. They've all been given a bicycle to cycle into town, and they literally have a piece of plastic that they get £40 a day allowance on it. Now, he showed me the video of it, and it's 100% genuine, of a room full of training tracksuits, training shoes, all things like that. And not one of everything in it was all Under Armour, Adidas. It wasn't Primark or something like that. Now, I've got friends who served in the armed forces who are struggling to find somewhere to live. Now, when I say that to people, it's not right. We have to look after our own. People actually say to me, that's very racist, that you can't say things like that. I said, I'm not being racist. I said, you've got to get things into proportion. It's as simple as that. And the other point, if I may make it, is that we live in a throwaway society. I don't know, I'm sure you remember, we used to have a razor shop on every high street. When you had a hairdryer or a toaster, you got it repaired. Nowadays, we throw them away because they're just cast. There's no screws, nuts or bolts in them. They're just cheap imports. They cost a £5 from one of your high street retailers, and we throw everything away. Now, my granddad has got a radio that he's had for 60-odd years. He's got a clock. I say to him, why don't you get a DAB radio? He says, this radio, I've had it 75 years and it still sounds as good today because it was made British, and he's proud of it. He wouldn't get rid of it. He's proud of British, and that's what we're not. We're not proud anymore, and that breaks my heart.
Mate, I have to say, first of all, I want to say thank you so much indeed for finding us. Talk is very simply the home of common sense and free speech, and it was set up because we believe very strongly that radio presenters, as much as politicians, were so scared of losing their job, they weren't doing their job. This is an opportunity. Everything you said, right? Let's just nail this. And I understand. 10 years ago, I can see Kev O'Sullivan through the glass. We've known each other a long time. 10 years ago, if you brought up immigration, you were called a racist. It is not a racist to say that if your public services are under attack, if your country is on the verge of being bankrupted by an ideological government that seems to think that we all want electric cars and we all want to have solar this, and we're grabbing the land of farmers and we're screwing pensioners and we're disrespecting veterans, right? It doesn't make any sense when you're on your arse, for the want of a better phrase, to say, it's all right, come here. No, I know you haven't escaped a war-torn country. You just don't fancy being in France in a tent. Because, John, you haven't heard me say this, right? But if I was escaping a war-torn country, right, I would bring my wife and kids with me. And the first country I got to, when there weren't bombs raining down on my head, I would settle. The reason people come to the United Kingdom is because we are as soft as... We give them everything. And your example, that video, is absolutely tailor-made. Now, if these people are escaping war-torn countries and we can afford to do that, fantastic. But when Labour's own government will tell you that 4,000 pensioners died this year because they froze to death, right? When we're giving billions of pounds away to give away the islands in Chagos, or because we're backing whatever in Afghanistan or India, and our own people, our veterans, are homeless, right? When people's bills are going through the roof, when old people, or in fact anybody, can't get a bloody doctor's appointment unless you're a migrant, no wonder people are up in arms. And it is not racist to say that. It is factual. We've always been in the United Kingdom the country that cared about everybody else, and I think that's brilliant. But there comes a point, if you can't afford to do it for your own people, that your own people are going to say, hold on a second, why should I be eighth in the bleeding queue? I've been paying for this and I can't get anything. And I don't apologise for that view, John, and neither should you, to anybody. That is simply factual, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And it's like you say, people are scared to speak nowadays because they get cast with a brush, and it's not about that. It's about what's right and wrong, and there's nothing wrong in that being proud of the country where you come from and wanting Britain to be great again. We ruled 2/3 of the world. I know it was wrong, some of the things, how we ruled the world. I'm not getting into that. That was 200 years ago.
I wish we'd believe in ourselves more. I wish we'd believe in ourselves, and that's why today we're talking about these tariffs, and everybody's going, oh, it's disgusting. No, he's the President of the United States who's doing right by the American people. I don't have to believe in everything the Orange Man baby does. But I'll tell you what I do say, John, I wish we had a bloody Prime Minister or politician in this country who had the gumption to say, I'm going to put the American people second and the British people first. I'm going to make sure the British people are treated well. Listen, tell your friends, it's great to have you involved with Talk. We really appreciate the call. John in Oxford, thank you so much indeed. Right on 5:30, we're going stateside in a tick with the US political commentator and managing editor of Inside Sources. I created this man since when he doesn't talk to me, but we've managed to secure him at a very large fees. Next, it's the American Michael Graham on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, right, yes. Sorry, welcome back. Julia's back on Monday. Who's on tomorrow? Is it Alex? I've no idea. Alex Phillips, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Listen, loads of you will get on, I promise you. Great call from John in Oxford. He said, we've just found Talk. Can't believe that people are able to speak honestly. I sort of feel like the best way to explain Talk is that it's sort of... it has presenters on it who aren't scared of saying what they feel, and backed by people who believe in us to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it's about you guys. Next is a man who was really in the back streets of broadcasting, and I had him on many times, since when he appears on all the other shows and ignores me. The American Michael Graham. Howdy, partner.
I try to ignore you as much as I can, but like the character in that Michael Douglas movie, you will not be ignored. No. So here we are.
I am the Prince Harry of your dreams. It's let's not go there. So good. Did you?
At least you're not Meghan. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Have you heard the
Don't
story?
be Meghan,
Kinsey
man.
Schofield was nailed on today. She said this a week ago. Everybody was laughing. Meghan sold out all of her jam. They only made 10 pots just to look good. What a load of old trap. Honestly, does my head in. Right, MG. I've got a slightly different view, I suspect, to many people, including you. I've been... The Orange Man, baby, there's much about him that I get annoyed about, but what I absolutely respect is that, irrespective of criticism in the press, politically, court cases, this man stands up and he says, I am going to put the American people first. His tariff war, as it's being labelled, there's countries all over the place going, this is an outrage. Myself, I would crave a politician in the United Kingdom who would say, we're not going to be screwed. We're going to make sure that we put ourselves in the market. We're going to make stuff. We're going to get a good price. I'm going to make sure that the American people, the British people in effect, can be successful. And all these people that are up in arms, I mean, that's why I supported, I said earlier to somebody else, Brexit, because I thought we would become successful again, lead the world, make stuff instead of importing cheap stuff. I'm totally with your president. Are the American people behind him?
They're split. I mean, polls show that tariffs aren't particularly popular. People understand them as a tax on the person who's going to the store and buying stuff. And the fact is that Americans, for all their talk about Buy America, whatever, like everyone else, to buy cheap stuff. And they go to the big box store and they load up their cart with stuff made in, in countries with much lower wages. And they go home and they're happy to have their cheap T-shirts and whatnot. So I don't know. I think people who say they know how this is going to play out on either side. People are predicting there's going to be a golden age for American manufacturing. They don't know. People who say we're doomed. This is going to be, the Great Depression. We're doomed. I think we're in a wait and see point. But you hits on something that I don't think the political class grasps. In this era when the confidence in the elites who govern us is so low because they got so much stuff wrong, going back to the Iraq War and coming up through today, COVID, etc. People, when you say to them, hey, the experts say tariffs stink, the experts say the tariffs going to cost you money, that doesn't have the same impact that it would have had a generation ago. But when they see Trump, who clearly, whatever else you think of the guy, wants America to win, that's the message people are picking up. And that's why polls show, even though, and it depends, polls are to a degree all over the place. Some have him still above water, some have him below, but generally speaking, he's polling better than he ever polled during his first term. And I think that's because people think even if he's wrong for the right reason. He wants America to win. And that's resonating with a lot of people. And when you point out that there are a lot of smart economists who say this is the wrong way to win, they say, yeah, what do those guys know? They got us the meltdown in 2008. Yep. They got, they got us in the mess we're in now. Why do I trust them?
And this is my point. We had a leader, many people, loved her or loathed her, Margaret Thatcher, who basically stood in front of the British people and said, this is my vision. You can own your own council tax. I'm going to take away the powers of the trade unions by getting rid of the closed shops. Strikes won't be allowed unless it's voted for. And everybody thought, this abhorrent woman. But actually, this country did very well. But the point is that somebody like her was the leader of 400 people, and if she didn't get what she wanted, she'd sack them. And in the end, after 10 years, there were 399 people in a room. She'd sacked all of them, and they got rid of her. Donald Trump is like that, but Donald Trump doesn't give, and excuse my language, Ryan, you don't need to, he doesn't give a toss, because he said to the American people, this is what I believe. You voted for me, and I'm going to do it irrespective of all the economists and the newspaper editors. And I have to say one thing, MG, which we were saying just now. He talks America up. Our politicians talk the United Kingdom down the whole time, man. And that's really exhausting, if I'm being completely honest. That's not me being, oh, Great Britain, because Great Britain probably isn't great anymore at the moment. But I am fed up in this country of politicians who are on a downer the whole time, mate.
So there are two. So there's actually two slices, that there's a divergent part of that conversation. Trump absolutely has no patience with the America is evil and terrible colonizers, and you know we're racist. Those people get no room from him. He just shoves them aside, and that he's waged war on what over here is called DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, which literally, I mean, people think I'm exaggerating. It literally is based on the premise that everything in America is so racist that the only way you can fix it is to be anti-racist, which means you have to treat white people badly. So the day of even trying to have level playing field, just forget that. You can't do it. Too racist. You have to screw white people to help other people. And, of course, that makes everyone feel bad. So he blows up. But then on the other side, though, the message of tariffs is we've been getting ripped off. The American workers are doing terrible. Look at this devastation we have. The fact is our manufacturing sector is not devastated. It has a lot fewer workers in it, but its output is about the same. What's happened, here's what's happened all over the Western world, which is technology makes every individual more productive, and so it takes fewer workers to make the widgets, and that's just where we are, and you're not going to fix that with tariffs. So he does have a kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. America kind of thing where he thinks American society is great, but he keeps saying that our economy is getting shafted, screwed, ripped off, whatever, and there's not a lot of data to back that up. What I would like to see, and so I'm going to make myself king of the world for a minute, is I'd like to see all of the Western countries, the Anglosphere, you might call it, with maybe throw the frogs in, whatever, have a trade network that is designed to hurt Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. That's what I want. I want us to have team, we're not dictators, versus team dictators.
Listen, there are people in this building who disagree with me. I'll take NATO as an example, right? I have every reason to say he was absolutely right to stand up and say, I'm not going to pay more to secure the future of Europe when you lot aren't paying for it. And lo and behold, what happened? Straight away, several governments, starting with ours, decided to spend more money on defence. I am not, for my critics, right, and there are many, saying that Donald Trump is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
There should be more.
There should be more. But I would just love that passion. I would love that belief, that verve, that desire, that irrespective of who's going to knock me over, I'm going to do right by you. I noticed today ex-Vice President Mike Pence has slammed Donald's tariff plans. Do we care? Not really.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of oomph in the party anymore, but he does speak for a significant number of traditional Republicans who maybe don't even like Mike Pence that much. They like Trump. They connect with Trump. They like his voice. They like his attitude. But they see economics as the way, lower taxes, spread out the burden so that a lot of people pay the lowest amount. That's kind of the Republican approach. Get the rates as low as you can, have everybody pay a little and cover the bills and stop spending so much money. And so he speaks for those people, but he's such a wounded political figure, it doesn't really matter. J.D. Vance is much more significant, and he's out making the case that this is the way to go. But he's also making a case that I don't know where, and this is back to people who predict what's going to happen. In essence, they're arguing, prices are going to go up a little, but you're going to buy American. And the buying American is worth it, and your neighbor's going to have a better job, and your neighbor's family's going to have more money. And so
it'll trickle down.
We've never had someone say, yes, you're going to pay more and you should like it. And look, I don't. There's a big buy American sentiment.
In this country, they say you're not going to pay more. Watch my lips, and then they get elected, and it costs twice as much. Right. I mean, honestly, and we've got clips from Starmer in the election campaign going, "Watch my lips. No rises in council tax. Oh, it's gone up again." Quick question, two very quick questions, because we've only paid you a certain amount today, so you're not going too much, Joey, because you're probably another show. I read this extraordinary story that said he's so powerful, Donald Trump, he's trying to work out how he can get a third term. By getting... Is this madness? What is this story? He's going to get J.D. Vance elected, and then Vance will resign and say, I nominate Donald Trump, who's going to rule the world, man.
I'm not going to get into the weeds of why that can't happen, but just trust me, it can't happen because of the Constitution. But I think...
He might change the Constitution. Come on, listen, man. He got re-elected after the Capitol Hill riots. Come on,
that wasn't unconstitutional. Look, say what you want about Donald Trump. In the end... he plays by the rules. What he does, though, is he uses rules ways people hadn't figured it out. You know, when Democrats said, "Hey, we're going to use our court system to go after an enemy like Donald Trump," Trump's now saying, "Okay, let's do it." So now all kinds of people, law firms, whatever, they're going after. What can you say? So Trump will take whatever rule you bend by an inch, and he'll bend it by a mile. You start the bending, he's going to jump in. But here's my point. What happens when Trump talks about a third term? One, drives the liberal Democrats crazy, drives media crazy. He loves that. His base loves that. Two, it keeps people focused on him. You know, lame duck is the phrase over here. It means you can't run again. So people are already looking for the next guy or gal. He doesn't want people to look for the next guy or gal yet. And this is a way to just kind of slow that roll.
Is J.D. Vance the next guy or gal?
If we were voting today, almost certainly he would win the Republican nomination among Republican primary voters. But we're not voting today, and that is the real question. We're going to have a midterm in 18 months, which is a long time from now. If it looks decent, J.D. Vance is in good shape. If the wheels come off, some Republicans might start looking around and saying, okay, that was fun. It's time for a new brand. You know, it's like the restaurant changing them. You got to change the menu, keep people going. You know, so you used to have the whatever weird stuff you guys eat, cucumber sandwich special. Now you're having the toffee and walnut special. Whatever. Treacle. You guys eat treacle, something like that.
What's wrong with treacle? The other question I want to ask you before you go, Elon Musk. Extraordinary. Now, rumours today that he's going to step back from his role and return to Tesla. Have they fallen out? Is this just BS? What's happening?
So all kinds of different reports coming out of DC on this, but there's one thing, keep in mind, he said in an interview, I think weeks ago, he has an official title. It's like special government aid or something, and it has a term. Like you can only do this if you do it for longer than that. You have to go to the Senate and get approved. See what I'm saying? So he said from the beginning he plans to do that term and then leave. So what's happening now is because the election in Wisconsin didn't go well Tuesday night, he spent a bunch of money. People are saying, oh, he's getting out because he stinks and Trump's done with him. And other people are saying, no, he always said he was going to serve this special governmental aid term and then move on. And he said, I think last week, he thinks he can find all the cuts to get to $1 trillion in savings before his regular term ends. But who knows?
You have such an amazing country.
Trump could fling him out of a window at the White House any day now. He's got to be ready.
I'd like to say there is, for me, a heroine of your government. What's the press secretary? Is it Caroline Levitt?
Caroline Levitt, an acquaintance of mine.
She is extraordinary. She makes Donald Trump look like he's weak. She's got a parent, she.
She's very smart. She ran for Congress a couple years ago, beat an incumbent, beat the guy who'd won the nomination before. She didn't win the general election because New Hampshire is very Democrat when it comes to Congress. But she impressed a lot of people and then went on to become the White House spokesperson. And I know someone who taught her in college. And he said that even when she was in college, you knew that she was going to do big things. You just didn't think she'd be doing them by the time she was in her mid-20s.
Amazing. MG, it's been too long. We love having you on. It's a drain financially, but we'll get you back on again soon. My respect and my love to you and the family. Thank you very much indeed. Right, this is Talk Drive.
European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff.
Why has the National Crime Agency suddenly worked out that what everybody else knew is something that they've discovered?
How on earth can they be taking such a long time to wake up to what everyone else has known when they find 6 barber shops on their high street next door to each other with only 6 customers?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 6. I wish you could hear what goes on in the background. Ryan and I have just had one of our more bizarre conversations because Chelsea are playing Spurs tonight, and he's convinced that I've become the most impressive predictor of football matches. Last night, I predicted 6 games with Ian Danter. I got 5 right. They laughed at me. And the only one I got wrong was the Liverpool-Everton derby, which I said would be a draw, and it should have been because the goal was offside and Tarkowski shouldn't have been on the pitch. I'm just being completely honest. Anyway, Ryan said, what did you say? You got married in a barn. Why did you get married in a barn? You're a barn owl, are you? Anyway, never mind. Right, push the button, Sammy, please. Oh! Oh, no, it's not ready. Right, let's do it again. Listen. I know Amy's always ready, but frankly, Sam's been very busy. Push the button, Sammy. Still isn't ready. I don't care, we've got water.
Summary on Talk.
Might have a grape while he's doing that. Right, a very good afternoon. Ian Danter, right, this is what happens. Before I introduce you, mouthful of grape. I'm going to say good afternoon to Anil Kandola. It's lovely to have you here, Anil, but here's what I'm going to say to you, right? So, about 3 weeks ago, Sam Ellard, I told him, as a Liverpool fan, that they would be knocked out of the Champions League by PSG and would lose the Carabao Cup to Newcastle. And I said, Brian will back me up. I'll see you on Monday. He's never been on the show since because I got it right. Last night, Danter came on, gave him his break in Birmingham all those years ago, right? You don't know what you're talking about. Southampton are rubbish. Ryan was laughing, going, you've got it right again. Not a sign. So we'll start with the big game tonight, right? Which is it's Chelsea Spurs, 8 o'clock. Is it on TalkSport?
Of course it is on TalkSport, Jeremy. You were telling me about your prediction, so I'm not really sure what I'm needed here for. You can just...
No, you tell me what you think happens tonight, Chelsea Spurs.
I think, look, this game has always been deemed as the battle at the bridge, isn't it? Especially with these two sides. There's no love lost for sure. It's always an entertaining game, and I think with both sides, respectively, they haven't had a season to remember for different reasons, I'd say. So I think with Tottenham, it's turmoil Tottenham, as usual. With Chelsea, I think it's been a bit of a difficult period because at the start of the season, there were some people certainly banning them for potential title candidates. Of course, a lot of injuries, especially to their key man Cole Palmer, who is back in the squad tonight. We expect him to start the game.
To start or come on?
I think he will start, given...
He needs a burger, though, doesn't he? He looks, honestly, you could break him with a pin. He does look undernourished, doesn't he?
Exactly that, but it's what he does with his feet at the end of the day, and he clearly is good enough. So I think, don't get me wrong, a bit of size wouldn't go amiss, but yeah, he is back in the fold for very good news when it comes to Chelsea fans' ears, and I think it'll be a brilliant game. It always is, and of course, when it's on TalkSport.
It's interesting. Chelsea was slagged off spending all this money on young players, and it was always going to be, it'll take time and they'll end up with a good team. You're right, they started like a train. I just don't see a midfield general. I don't see a leader that when Chelsea were at their most amazing, there was that spine. There was Terry into Lampard, into Drogba up front. It was Czech at the back. It was amazing. Go on then, give me a prediction. Chelsea Spurs.
I think it's going to end 2-2.
Ooh,
there'll be some goals and maybe even a red card as well.
So. Ooh, right. Ryan, you can't hear this. What's your prediction, Ryan? 3-1.
Jot these down.
He says 3-1 to Spurs. Jody is quite a football fan. Jode, what are you saying? 2-0 Chelsea. You don't like Spurs. Sam, who knows far more about football than lets on, despite the fact he's a Charlton fan. What are you saying, Sammy? 3-1 Chelsea.
No,
right.
no one has the confidence.
Right, hold on a
do they?
second. 2-2 Chelsea. So 2 of you believe Chelsea win. Ryan, for some reason, backs Spurs to win 3-1. But let's be honest, he's in fact a Watford fan, so he's used to disappointment. I'm going to go with you. I think this has got draw written all over it. I don't even... it could even... I think it's 1-1. I just look at it and I go, I think they'll cancel each other out. You think... If you're a football fan, Postecoglou's a dead man walking. I actually genuinely feel sorry for him, but I just don't see that it's worked at all.
No, for sure. I think I agree to a certain extent in terms of the
Nothing
sympathy.
to play for.
Exactly. It's a very difficult end to the season at a club that isn't exactly the least toxic, shall we put it in the nicest way. But I think he almost made his own bed when he came out with the big and very bold claim that he always wins something in his second season. Not previously, this is what I've done. He says, this is what I do. And there's a very big difference between talking in past tense and present tense.
Sorry, Ryan's just jumped in when he can still win the Europa.
Of course he can't.
Of course he can't. They're not going to win the Europa, are they? Sorry, Ryan's just said I have a bet with you. I'll bet my salary. Are you sure?
Salary for salary, that's
dear,
fair,
I'll have
isn't
to
it?
work 2 days. No, listen, I'm joking. So, no, listen, I think it's got draw written over it, but I think he's gone. I'll tell you who I think will be the next Spurs manager as well. This will be worth a bet for you, Ryan. I think it'll be the Bournemouth manager. I think Ariola's the next big bet. I think that's the next big shout, to be fair.
I think if they do, what a coup that is. He has got a lot of eyes on him, not just from the Premier League, across Europe, and rightly so.
Let's talk about last night then. The Merseyside derby, and you'd love to be in Jodie's house, only because Cameron cooks great meals, but Cameron's a Liverpool fan, she's an Everton fan. That goal was at least 3 foot offside, and Tarkowski, the PGMLO, or whatever that stands for, was that the professional... What is PGMOL?
They're the ones in charge.
They're the ones in charge. I love it. They're in charge of referees. They say that he should have been sent off today. I mean, blatant foul by James Tarkowski.
I think it's just the height of hilarity when not only do they get a very poor decision go against them, of course, on the actual match day, but for them to come out, a matter of hours, not even at 24 hours yet, and they're already admitting we've got this one massively wrong. Of course, Sam Barrett, who was the referee, initially gave it as a yellow card, which to the naked eye, mistakes can happen. That's, of course, why we have the invention of VAR to prevent any mistakes from happening. But VAR looked at it and went, no, that looks pretty fair. Only for hours later, the head honchos to go, actually, do you know what? Neither of you were right, and it should
Your
have been
job
a
at
red card.
TalkSport depends on you knowing what PGMOL stands for. It's the Professional Game Match Officials Limited. I didn't know that at all. It just given to me. Also, I have a lot of friends. I'm going there tomorrow. I spent a lot of time in Newcastle. Thought the team were impressive last night when you consider the euphoria of the Carabao Cup. But for them and Eddie Howe getting in the Champions League essential, they look a good team at the moment.
Really good. And I think massive hats off to Eddie Howe. You know, there was almost a crossroads period for him when he lost the Carabao Cup final a couple of years ago. People
can't believe England didn't interview him.
Exactly. Not even have a conversation with him, which of course is their loss at the end of the day. But for Newcastle fans, they've got someone at the helm who is just superb. I thought initially after they won the Carabao Cup, you'd expect a drop off, and understandably so. You know, they've just
won't allow it.
Exactly. And no, straight back to it, and they've already got a very clear goal, which is to go one further, which is Champions League qualification.
Really, and I say it all the time, and people laugh at me. At St James's Park all the time.
Different gravy.
Thank you. Listen, Anfield, all that great, but I promise you, when the Toon Army start with those black and white flags for the players come out, it's extraordinary. Marcus Rashford, very quickly, want to talk about him. Completely different footballer to the drudgery of Manchester United, reborn.
Of course, England call up in there as well. He's got, I think, 3 goals now in the last 2 games.
Unai Emery.
Exactly.
Hats off to Unai Emery. Great signing.
It just shows the environment that you work in is so important, especially with a player like Marcus Rashford, who works and thrives of confidence. He clearly has found somewhere where he is very confident, as I say. He's very happy, and he's also very much contributing to the success that Aston Villa had.
Ferguson once said, I saw a Gary Neville quote once, that there were rules for everybody, but Cantona was treated differently. Cantona didn't have to wear a blazer. He could get away with it because he was a G. I'm not excusing Rashford, but sometimes you have to put your arm around players. I mean, he looks, for me, like the best signing Villa have made. I mean, not just assists, but goals. I hope, and I know you're a Man United fan, I hope he doesn't go back to United. It would be a massive mistake.
Absolutely not. And from an England perspective,
could become a Villa legend, and I genuinely mean that.
He's at the right age in terms of still being able to rejuvenate his career, and he's doing that already. So let's hope for his sake that he continues that, and then some, and hopefully Manchester United get a bit of money from him as well.
We know Liverpool are going to win the Premier League. Who gets the 5 places for the Champions League?
So that's all very complicated, but it does depend on the teams and how they do across Europe, not just in the Champions League.
Who do you think gets in the top 5? Who do you think the top 5 is?
So I think Liverpool will get there. I think Man City will eventually get there as well. Arsenal will be in there. I do think Aston Villa will get in there. And,
Do you?
And you know what? I think Newcastle will as well. I think Bournemouth have been very good. Forest, of course, are in there as well.
Oh, I think
But
Forest
you always
will-
just worry at a business end, the pressure.
You're only saying that because they beat your team.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
Just to finish, though, you guys might disagree with me. I think that Nuno Espirito Santos is the manager of the season by a merry mile. What he's done at Nottingham Forest, extraordinary.
I don't think I need to say any more than that, Jeremy. What an unbelievable season he has had. For them to be, I think it was, 15th last season?
17th? Yes,
At this stage, for them now to be one of the best sides in the country. Of course, Liverpool, who were going to win the league, only lost one game. That was at Anfield, and that was against Nottingham Forest.
You're a good man. So you're going for a draw, and so am I. Ryan believes that Spurs will beat Chelsea. Sammy and Jodie, quite rightly, going for a Chelsea win.
Someone's got to be right. Someone surely has got to be right.
Yes, somebody. We've got a draw and wins both sides. Somebody will be. Anil, thank you very much indeed. That was Sport Drive Time Sport. What is it? Almost 6 o'clock. News headlines on the way. If you want to be part of the debate, Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer for Spiked. He's a legend. He's on next. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Don't forget as well, you can send your text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. But the news at 6 is next on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Hour 3 of Drive for Thursday. We're live across the UK. This is JK. Thanks for tuning in. In a tick, the legend that is Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer for Spiked. I've said before on many occasions, this show is about you. It's about free speech. It's about common sense. For some reason, Ryan said something about being married in a barn. I would like to salute Stephen Cambridge for quite possibly the greatest text ever. JK, a barn, it proves nothing more than Ryan is Jesus. Really? Jesus? Yes. Jez, I saw your TV programme tonight. Loved it. Thank you very much indeed, Andy Linton. Jez says Bob in Clacton. Did he vote? I don't know. I can't believe what is happening with this bloody government, giving the Chagos Islands away, letting criminals and terrorists just walk around. I can only conclude that this is deliberate because nobody could be that stupid. I don't think we'll make... that we will make it to the election in 2029. You say you don't believe that people should be so stupid. And I have to point out, because we're in the middle of a local election, there's a thing, when you're doing broadcasting, you can't be seen to be favouring. But we tried. I mean, I remember during the election trying to say to people, I remember 1979, people would laugh at me, even through the glass. They go, oh, you old git. In 1979... The Labour Party fell on its backside because they were elected and they said to any union, you can have a pay rise. So all the unions went, can I have 30%? And when we ran out of money and the Labour Party went, you can't have any more, then they all went on strike. There was rubbish in the streets like there are in Birmingham. There were green goddesses, which are military vehicles for ambulances, because they were on strike. Everything was on its backside. And for the people who think that that's cynical, I think the same thing's going to happen again. 6:05, if you want to be on this hour, 0344 409 1000. Just see me as Kevin O'Sullivan's fluffer for the next 60 minutes. But we say a very good evening. I think this man's more switched on than many. Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer of Spiked. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Jeremy. How's it going?
I feel like I'm cheating on you. I mean, it's a Thursday, not a Wednesday. What's happening?
Yeah, yesterday was too crazy for me, but we've got to have our weekly catch-up. I'm always delighted to talk to you.
Now, I'm going to try and keep it calm because I've tried... Thanks, Jodie. Jodie's bought tea, but she's crept in so she can't be seen. So this complete and utter madness that's going on about Donald Trump. US stock market plunges. Europeans are going to take them on. Countries are up in arms. I said earlier something that actually resonated with, it seems, quite a few of our listeners, which is I would absolutely love to have a leader in the United Kingdom who stood up and said, you know what, I'm going to make Britain successful. I'm going to put Britain first. Because just so you know, Brendan, right, I voted to leave the European Union because I believed as an island we could be super successful and not under the control and the auspices of an organisation that seemed to have its own agenda. I thought that Brexit was going to be the very great opportunity for our business to flourish and be successful and build things and be competitive in the world, free of the ramshackle of the EU and all that entailed. Obviously, that hasn't quite panned out. But with this, right now, apart from on the one hand thinking, yeah, Donald Trump, I'd love to have somebody like you, just took the world on. The other thing is we're not tied to Europe. Let them have a trade war. This is the moment, is it not, for Britain to get its head out of its back? We're so miserable and down. This government is so morbid. I think we need to start believing again. Is that idealistic or what?
No, I completely agree with you, and I'm sure many listeners would agree with you as well. We do need to start thinking about what Britain needs, what is in our own best interests. And that was the momentum behind Brexit.
Yep.
All this nonsense about Brexit being a xenophobic vote or people saying we hate Europe. People don't hate Europe. They hate the European Union because it's this sclerotic, bureaucratic institution that was an albatross around our neck, which made laws that we had no control over, which enforced economic rules on us that weren't in our interest, which made us accept free labour across our borders, which increased immigration. This was an institution it was not in our interest to be a part of. And I completely agree with you that when 17.4 million people demanded that we liberate ourselves from the EU, that should have been an opportunity for Britain to assert itself again as an economic powerhouse. We have squandered that opportunity. The Tories did, as well as Labour doing it too. And I think Trump should give us a bit of a kick up the bottom and make us recognise that now's the time for us to strike out for what is in our interests.
And I used the example earlier of Germany. I mean, forget the immigration problems. I'm talking about 70 years ago, after the war, and after all the problems, and they were rightly ostracised. They went into themselves, and they created one of the most diverse and successful economies in the world. And you think of the products, the BMWs, you think of Bosch, you think of all those companies that sprung up post-Second World War. I don't understand, well, I do, I don't understand why Great Britain has lost its great mantra. I think we have politicians now. I mean, we've talked ideology every week. You know, let's go net zero and financially screw us all. No, let's not. Let's look after our own. No, let's look after people who flood our country and take our public services and our benefits. I think that we need would you not love a conviction politician, whether that person, male or female, had warts and all, to be able to say, do you know what? whatever the detractors say, whatever the papers say, whatever the courts say, whatever my opponents say, I'm going to try and make your life better. And it will be a journey, and it might not work out, and there'll be days when it's good and days when it's bad. But come with me, because we're going to have a go. At least we're going to have a go, instead of this drudgery. What did Starmer say today? I'm just going to keep calm whilst I continue to hope to have a deal with America. I mean, God, man, wouldn't inspire anybody, would it?
You know, what we need right now is a confident, ambitious government that loves Britain, loves its people, and wants to make the country better. We have the exact opposite of that. We have a wooden, stiff, boring, technocratic prime minister who never gets excited about anything apart from, I don't know, adolescence on Netflix. This is a guy who is utterly uninspiring, very down on Britain, looks down his nose at British history, doesn't think our economy is up to much. They spent months saying our economy is a black hole, which discouraged lots of people from investing here. These people don't believe in Britain. The people running this country don't believe in this country. That is catastrophic, regardless of whether you're a Tory person, a Labour person, a Brexit person, whatever you are. You should want a government that actually loves the country it's leading. And we don't have that. And what that means is that there is so much we should be proud of about this country. This is where the Industrial Revolution was born. This is where modernity was born, right here on this island. It changed the world for the better. It made people richer, healthier. It made them live longer. That comes in large part from our industrious spirit. We've completely neglected that. There's no chance of it coming back under Labour, but now is the time that it needs to come back.
I honestly, I couldn't agree more. And you look at this just in as well. An economist has warned that Britain's households will be 400 quid minimum worse off this year with Reeves's tax hikes. I mean, I'm not an economist and I'm not massively intelligent, but I can work out basics. And if you tell people your country's on its backside, if you tell people we're going to try and go net zero and it's going to cost you money, and we're gonna sadly that's going to mean your bills go up, although they lied about that. If you're permanently down, you're giving away the Chagos Islands. I just don't understand, in my humble opinion, why there's no positiveness. And the other thing you didn't say there is if you come to power saying it's all about growth, yes. But you're not going to create growth by hiking tax and scaring anybody who's successful to leave this country. To anybody with a small and medium-sized business, you're going to make it so horrendous for them to even run that business that they're going to go skint. You're going to say to workers who, that's fine, let's have workers' rights. So if, you have a headache, you get 6 months free pay. Nobody wants to set up a business. Small businesses create the money that then permeates down and makes people's lives successful. So I think talking down the economy in almost every way has a really detrimental effect. And that's why, warts and all, the orange man, baby, and I call him that for a reason, I love that approach. Somebody in this building, I won't name them, I heard them say, this is outrageous. Really? He's protecting America. Give me a politician that wants to protect the United Kingdom.
Yeah, the thing I've been thinking today when I read about how much poorer Brits are going to be, £400 a year and all this stuff. People are willing to take some short-term pain.
Yeah,
if there's a longer term goal, right? Just think, the obvious example is the Second World War. People were prepared to ration their food, to have less, to really struggle for years because there was a bigger goal, which was the defeat of Nazism. People were prepared to make those sacrifices. And then we had a boom after the war, things improved. But what we're being asked to do now is to sacrifice so much of our money, so many of our jobs, our manufacturing industry, our future, potentially, the future of this country, for what? To save a few carbon emissions, which, by the way, will just be done somewhere else because we'll have to import all that steel that we're no longer producing. We'll have to import all that coal that we're no longer digging up from our own land. So actually, we don't cut carbon emissions in the round. Why are we being asked to make all these sacrifices? We've been asked to make them in the name of this kind of pseudo-religion, to appease the gods of weather. You must give up 400 quid. You must recycle everything. You must never dream of working in the coal industry or the gas industry. So it's that fact. It's the fact that we're being asked to go through this pain with no future benefit. That's what makes this such
I don't think it's that we're even being asked, and I'm so with you. It's like the British people. History is littered with actually when there is a conflict or when there's a common good, the British people come together and they do it for the right reasons. I feel my government is is hell-bent on some ideological path, and I'm irrelevant. That's fine, I'm 60 years of age, but this country will go skint. And it will take years to get this country back. And I struggle, if I'm being completely honest, to think that people who are running this country, and you started by saying, I think you're spot on, don't actually care about this country and don't like this country. They're more interested in getting on with their European left-wing lawyer mates in Brussels and lining their pockets, it seems. Let me give you another example today. I mean, this is extraordinary. It's right up your street. An Al-Qaeda mastermind. I remember the 7/7 attacks. It was my 40th birthday. I was in a car in London. He's said to walk free in Britain, my friend, despite the police saying that he remains a risk. Haroon Aswat, 50, cannot be fully assessed by the justice system due to him having mental health treatment. He was an ex-Abu Hamza accomplice. He helped the hate preacher set up the US terror group, and whilst caged in the US in 2022, the article's great in the Sun today, he told a British shrink, I'm a terrorist. I'll kill Jews, Christians and Muslim enemies. I'll kill anybody. We're going to allow this piece of crap, excuse my French, onto our streets in another example of a justice system that doesn't deal with the perpetrators, right? Punishes the victims. I already had a text from somebody who was caught up that says it's disgusting, it's unbelievable. We've got a government that walks around going, oh, we'll keep it. I don't understand. How can this man walk the streets? It's ridiculous.
It's outrageous, but you know, it's also indicative of a government and a whole entire ruling class that doesn't take the problem of Islamic terrorism seriously enough. They really do not understand the extent of this existential threat. And in fact, they discourage us from talking about it. You know, after every Islamist attack, it's always the same thing. Lay a flower, shed a tear, and move on with your life. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't ask any awkward questions. You know, remember after the Manchester Arena bombing in which 21 people, mostly young people, were killed, what did we all say? Don't look back in anger. We all sang that song like some kind of ridiculous hymn. Don't look back in anger. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. You know, a few years back, Morrissey, the great Morrissey, made this really interesting point, which was that why does everyone know the names of Myra Hindley and Ian Brady, who killed 6 kids in Manchester in the 1960s, but no one knows the name of the Manchester Arena bomber who killed 21 kids in 2017? I bet you if you went on the street and asked people what's his name, most people wouldn't know what it was. It's Salman Abedi, of course. He's one of the worst mass murderers in the history of this country, and people aren't even really aware who he is. There's this culture of amnesia around Islamic terrorism, and I think this latest release demonstrates how unserious the government is about tackling this poison in our country.
And we know, and people will say, if they're listening to this, that's really unfair. Not trying to be unfair, just being honest. We know that Starmer and his government are very concerned about a certain part of society and how they will vote for them, the Muslim vote. That's a fact. I mean, I said it last week about when the Sentencing Council were making excuses. They were going to bring in this ludicrous rule. I'm sure people listening will remember this, that says, you know, if you come from a different ethnicity or religion or sexual group, they were going to advocate to judges when passing sentence, you need to be more lenient because they'll have had a hard time. And I was so completely gobsmacked. I think we talked about it, because a crime's a crime. I don't care where you come from. I don't care the colour of your skin, your religion, your sexuality. You break the law, you face the consequences. Actually, they rode back on it, thank God. And I thought, well, that was the strength of the media. This is ludicrous. Let me give you another story that's not been talked about much, but we did it on Plank. Do you know the Birmingham MP, Tahir Ali?
Yeah.
I mean, Birmingham is in the middle of an appalling crisis. I mean, we've all seen the pictures of Starmer, the quotes of him on his lips. Watch my lips, no rise in council tax. Well, Birmingham City Council's skint. And interesting, I had Sir John Redwood on earlier, who was saying that the old adage of, central government didn't give us enough. Birmingham's a great example of an inner city council that got its money for years from central government, decided to buy commercial buildings and invest in a portfolio of properties. And when the crash happened, they lost all that money. That's their responsibility. It wasn't central government's. Their rubbish crisis is absolutely appalling. And back to what I said in 1979, 3 million wheelie bins, rubbish strewn all over the streets, horrible smells, the impact of that, rats the size of cats. The MP Tahir Ali, who that's right in the middle of his constituency, isn't doing anything for the people of Birmingham. He's currently flying between England and Pakistan, trying to raise awareness, money and pass a bill that will build a brand new airport in Pakistan so that people who leave his constituency and go home don't have a 3-hour drive from the airport on outside of the city into the city. I'm not... that is a genuinely true story, Brendan. Yeah. That's a representative of the poor people of Birmingham. Look at their streets if you're watching online. Unbelievable.
You know, Jeremy, I think this is a really revealing and shocking story. I'm horrified by it. I mean, firstly, there's just the staggering hypocrisy of these people. These are the kind of Labour politicians, like Sarah Sultana is another one, who agitate morning, noon and night for net zero immiseration here in Britain. They are opposed to a third runway at Heathrow. They say we can't have airport construction in Britain because it will destroy the planet. And yet they openly agitate for a massive new global airport in Kashmir, in Pakistan-ruled Kashmir. So it's net zero poverty for us, but boom time in construction for Pakistanis. That is an extraordinary double standard. And as you say, the fact that Tahir Ali is the MP for that city we can see on the screen now, which is covered in rubbish, rats as big as cats walking around, very unhealthy and just a despicable sight. And yet he's more interested in what's happening 5,000 miles away. This is the poison of identity politics, where we now have members of parliament who seem more interested in issues that are about what's happening in foreign countries rather than what's happening right here in their own constituencies to their own voters.
And I think, I mean, I have to say, of all the stories today, I mean, I've listened to loads. I'm absolutely gobsmacked that somebody isn't bringing this guy to heel. I mean, again, for me, it's about posturing in politics. And I take it back to finish the full circle of Donald Trump. Many flaws as a human being. But I bet Tahir Ali's constituents, when they get to hear about that, would love a politician to stand up in Birmingham and say, I'm going to put you first. I'm going to be badgering ministers and government officials to get this sorted in Birmingham. We're going to get to the bottom of why these people are on strike. No, it wasn't central government. It actually was the Labour-controlled city council in Birmingham. It doesn't even matter if it's Labour or Conservative. They were responsible for that. I think Tahir Ali, I mean, I hear all these things about expenses and stuff. I think he should be brought to task over this. I think it's appalling. But it'll be 4 more years. It's beyond me. And I think, as we've said in the last 20 minutes, it's indicative of where we're at. We make apologies for people who commit crime. We don't seem to look after the people that are so important to our nation, and we seem to be ruled by a class and a government that get their priorities wrong, and that's all I want, a government that fights for me, that's all.
You know, Jeremy, we have to get real here, because we've had, over the past few months, we've seen Muslim members of parliament make the case for cousin marriage. We've seen them argue for new laws against so-called blasphemy against Islam. That was Tahir Ali as well, saying that we should outlaw any blasphemous criticism of Islam.
It's true.
And now we see a lot of them agitating for this airport 5,000 miles away, while often saying we can't have new airports in Britain. None of these things are in the interests of the British people. It is not in our interest to have cousin marriage. It's not in our interest to have censorship of people who criticize Islam. It's not in our interest what happens in Kashmir. That's their business, not ours. So the fact that we have this new layer of MPs who seem more interested in these issues that are actually harmful to Britain because they chime with their own identitarian, religious, ethnic worldview, that's horrific. That is a massive failure of integration. And you're absolutely right. What we need are politicians who are willing to speak up for Britain. What we have at the moment are politicians who seem more interested in speaking up for religious minorities, and that is not how a democracy
and ideological causes, net zero, whatever. I mean, horrendous. Listen, I love our weekly catch-up. I really appreciate you being on. We'll see you next week as ever. Brendan O'Neill, top man, brilliant man, chief political writer for Spike, 6:22. Kev is here from 7, brilliant as ever. 0344 499 1000 if you want to be on before that. Hello to Chris Hannon. Best time to talk to listen to Talk with JK in the pub. Lucky man. Ryan would love to be in the pub. He'll be going home to the barn. Love it when you have Brendan on. Brilliant man, says Leslie McClellan. Hello to David Austin. $6 million man. Nobody knows that. I'm proud to have worked in the gas industry. Without natural gas, we would not have today's clean air and excellent central heating comfort in our homes. Air source pumps might be a good physics principle, but not good in the middle of winter when we would need expensive additional electric heating. Dave's in Coventry. Spot on. This is Talk Drive.
The Prime Minister also promised that he would not increase taxes on working people. But even the OBR says that the jobs tax will be passed on to workers. On average, families will be £3,500 poorer.
She wants the extra £26 billion in the NHS, Mr. Speaker, that was paid for by the national insurance rise. She wants that. She doesn't want to reverse the national insurance rises.
Mr. Speaker, I don't agree with making people poorer. I don't agree with pensioner poverty.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I feel like I should be in the pub. If you, I swear to God, I'm thinking of doing like a podcast or a recording of what actually goes on in the breaks from absolutely nowhere. Honestly, Sammy's concentrating, Jodie's taking calls, there's a lady whose name I forget, I don't mean to be disrespectful, beavering away, have faith. Ryan literally pushes the buzzer that goes into my head and goes, Lauren's taking the cat out on a lead for a walk. Now, look, there's much I can say about this, and I'm an animal lover, but anybody that takes their pussy out for a walk on a lead at 6:25 on a Thursday... Why, Ryan? Have a child, man. This is getting ludicrous. It's a cat. Cats just play... What is wrong with you? Take the cat out... I can't be doing with it. Tell me, in the next 33 minutes, is there anybody listening who's ever taken a cat out on the lead? / does anybody know an institution I can have him put in ASAP? Let's go to Laurie in Kent. Laurie, have you ever taken a cat out on a lead?
No, I haven't.
Do you think that Ryan's mad?
I think he probably is, yes.
I think he probably is to be doing this bloody job, to be fair. Laurie, welcome to Talk Drive. What you got, pal?
Well, I've been thinking about this for such a long time, and it never seems to crop up in a conversation whereby, as a sovereign country, we can decide what's a prerequisite for travel to this country in terms of documentation, and why we don't insist that to land in this country you have to produce documents for medical insurance, is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. Because other countries make choices about what you should have or not have. Recently, the EU has suggested now they've got to pay €19 to come to travel to England, which is some sort of legacy of Brexit. I'm not quite sure. Somebody mentioned to that me recently. But for the whole business of sort of health tourism, it does strike me that would resolve this issue fairly quickly, because if that's a prerequisite for travel...
Well, but the problem with that is that's really commonsensical, right? So let me tell you about something. I don't know if you listened yesterday, but still, I dreamt about this last night, so enraged was I. The NHS last year spent 80 million pounds paying for interpreters, right? For people who come to this country and can't speak English. Now, before anybody jumps up and down, let's just park that for 1 minute. If you go to a country abroad and you need medical help or you've got an issue, you have to pay for your own interpreter. You've just come on very intelligently and said you should be able to prove that you've got insurance to travel to the United Kingdom. That, my friend, would involve processing systems and people, but most of all, it would demand an ideology that says, really sorry we're skint, need to make sure that only genuine people come here. Happy to have genuine people, by the way, before the do-gooders get the knickers in a twist, but can't be taken advantage of anymore because my own people are struggling a bit. There isn't that ideology. We live under a government and an increased ideology that started under the Tories, and it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact, which says we still believe that we should help the rest of the world. I understand the sentiment, just believe that right now it's not possible. And as a result, millions of people in this country are going, I'm 8th in the queue. So you're right. Of course we should do that. But we won't, because we don't have politicians who are strong enough to say, I love the United Kingdom, I love the rest of the world, but right now I've got to concentrate on what's going on at home. Charity at this point, I'm afraid, begins at home. Because when I say that, people will say, yes, but you don't understand what it's like. No, I don't. I don't understand what it's like to live in Ethiopia or Afghanistan. I completely accept that. But I'd like those very people to speak to Beryl in Bury, whose house was cold this winter because she had her £300 taken away by the Labour government, but they increased. Well, they said they didn't, but there's foreign aid. And so it's a difficult one for me. I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. But under this lot, it's never going to happen, Laurie. It isn't.
Well, this is the point, isn't it, about being a sovereign country, that you can make choices and decide what you want as a sovereign country.
Wasn't that the point of leaving the European Union, so we could make our own choices?
That's the whole point. And a responsible traveller, wherever you travel in the world, I'm never going to travel to the United States or to the continent without some level of travel insurance. Why is it not an international debate that people are travelling to a different country?
But we're talking about people, my friend, who 12 miles offshore drop their passports and any paperwork into the sea.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's...
It's not the subject that I'm talking about, but of course it's all part of it.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. Frightening. Really appreciate your call, mate. Whereabouts in sunny Kent?
I'm in Westerham in Kent.
Very nice. Have a lovely evening. Thank you so much indeed for being on Talk Drive. New caller. Let's go to Heathrow. What is he about to leave? So depressed by England, is he? Neil, welcome to Talk Drive. You on a flight out of here, son?
No, I'm a lorry driver. I'm just parked up.
Right, listen, before we go any further, when was the... Don't laugh. When was the last time you had a Yorkie bar?
6 months ago.
Oh, really? Have you got a sunburn right arm from the summer? Because all lorry drivers have a much browner right arm than a left arm, don't they?
Most certainly, sir. Most certainly.
Talk to me.
What it is, I'm a former serviceman. I spent a number of years serving my Queen and country, and I'm damn proud of what I did. I'm just disgusted that we have got a weak-knee, no-chin, don't swear, person running this country now that, to coin a phrase from the brilliant film Deadpool, is now more than a shit-spackled muppet fart.
The thing is, yes, the thing is, and I really struggled during the election because I wanted to be more vociferous. They have history, the Labour Party. It happened in the 70s. And so rightly, by the way, I just want to say that, so rightly were the British public completely and utterly angry, frustrated, disappointed and stopped listening to the Tories that this was allowed to happen. I don't believe if you give your union mates millions of pounds worth of pay rises, I don't believe if you allow people to come into this country at the speed with which they are, more so than under the Tories, when you're already creaking financially. I don't believe if you follow an ideology that says we should be net zero by 2050 when it will bankrupt this nation completely. I don't believe it can't end in anything but disaster. I believe by 2029 we'll be skinned, even more so.
Look at what the Americans have got. You like him or loathe him. The man has got a pair to stand up and say, I do not care about the English family. I do not care about the French or German family. All I care about is making my country great again. And we haven't got it. We used to be the lions of this world, and all we are now are the kittens.
Again, I couldn't. And do me a favour, as an ex-serviceman, one of my bugbears is how we treat ex-veterans, you know, ex-forces, men and women. When you see what's happening nowadays, and you fought for your king and queen and country, and it mattered to you, do you think, what did I do that for now?
Would I do it? Let me put it this way. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. I had 3.5 years. Unfortunately, I was medically discharged. I was injured. I had 3.5 years with 34 brothers. I'm an only child, but when I left my regiment, I had 34 brothers.
Your family?
If I hadn't got a bed to sleep in, there was one given to me. If I couldn't afford to eat, food was put in front of me. We looked after our own. We made sure that you got in a clean bed, had clean underwear, had good food. And what have you got now? You have servicemen that have given body parts to this country, sleeping on the street because they cannot afford to get a house. They cannot afford to feed themselves. But what will they do if they have money? They will go to the nearest Safa place and put that money in a donation pot to make sure other soldiers don't go through what they have to go through.
God, you know what? Honestly, that almost makes me. For all the people that say I mention servicemen and women every single day, and my views are outrageous, I'm just going to say, if you listen to Neil there, right, we've people who have lost body parts doing what's right by this country, who are living on the streets, and I'll even ask the lefties, are you still happy that people come to this country without any papers and end up with 4-star hotels and hot meals and doctors on tap? Because I don't care I don't care what anybody says. Sorry, that is not right in a civilised society. A real pleasure, Neil, to have you on, mate. Thank you so much indeed, and thank you generally for what you did for your country. 0344 499 1000. It's got a hole, Brave. Phil, you're on Talk Drive. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Jeremy. Enjoying the show. Steam coming out my ears, but there you go.
Did you hear that call from the ex-serviceman, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm an ex-serviceman. And up to last July, I would have, without doubt, served, even at my age now, I would serve for my country. But not since then. Not for this lot. They've lied and lied. And I'm sorry. I've got no faith in anybody in that government, not anybody. But getting back to Trump, I was totally amazed by the fact that he put tariffs on, because he's never ever mentioned it, has he? In the last sort of year, you know, that his favourite word is tariff. Never mentioned it at all. So it's all shock horror, isn't it? And the fact is, he's been there 5 months. He's been in. Why wait there 5 months ago, banging the drum? Because they're incompetent. I mean, we sent somebody over there who can't even tell whether he's a solicitor or not. So, and we've got another one there who's been kicked out of Parliament, resigned twice. So, you know, we sent our stars over there, didn't we? When we already had a good negotiator there who was sacked.
My point about Donald Trump is, Phil, and I'd love your response to this, and you're absolutely right. What he's done is what he said he was going to do. God, if we had politicians like that, it would be great. But a majority of the American people, and they hate this, the Democrats and the do-gooders, voted for him to be their president. And he said, this is what I'm going to do. And he's done it. And he will continue to do it, whether it upsets people or not, because that's what he's promising. And I simply have been saying all day today, I would love to have a politician in this country, from whatever political party, that presented themselves to the British people and said in the constituency, this is what I believe in. I hope you come with me. There'll be highs and lows. I'll tell you the truth along the way. There'll be things I mess up upon. This is me, warts and all. We'll try. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. The last person that said that, and people can have a go again, was Margaret Thatcher. I don't see that type of politician. In the end, that type of politician destroys themselves. Trump will destroy himself. Thatcher destroyed herself. But Christ, we could do with somebody with a pair right now, couldn't we?
Absolutely. The clue, to me, the clue's in the title. The President of the United States. So his priority is the United States, because the other thing that's concerning me is we've got a Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. What about Northern Ireland? Because aren't they governed by European Union rules?
Absolutely agree.
On trade. So are they going to get thrown under the bus? Because we manage to throw other people under the bus, don't we? So are they going to be subject to 20% tariffs? Because if they are, it'll decimate Northern Ireland. Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. Phil, have to go, but really appreciate. Tell all your friends in Hull to keep it taut. Really appreciate your call, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. And shot caller at 20 minutes to 7 o'clock. I've had a text from Steve in Cambridge. He said it's not weird at all that Ryan's wife has taken the cat out on a lead. She's taken a pussy for a walk this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, on a lead. He said, I used to take my ferrets out. That's it. I resign. Goodbye.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello to Eddie in Preston, who I think speaks for the nation. Hi, Jez. What is it going to take for people to finally say enough is enough? We've been discussing the same issues every day since this shower came into power. Yes, we had problems under the Tories, but right now, even I'd take Rishi back. Feels like we've had dreary Starmer for 14 years. Unfortunately, Eddie, the British people were so hacked off with the Tories it had stopped listening. Well, not unfortunately, they deserved it. They got thrown out, and we've got this lot for another 4 years. However, I will say this. Here's a Tory MP, shadow levelling up housing and community secretary. He's putting himself about a bit. Kevin Holenrake, a very good afternoon to you, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Jeremy. Yes, very good.
They look out and about. Now this subject is I'm just going to really keep as calm as I can, because you've been to Birmingham today, haven't you?
Yeah, it's shocking, to be honest, Jeremy. It's a national embarrassment what's happening there. You know, you've literally... It's like a third world country, to be honest. You've got rubbish stacked high, you've got babies' nappies, used nappies out there in the streets, piled up in the streets. You've got fly tipping going on. The community
3 million wheelie bins of waste rotting in the streets. Rats the size of cats. This is a 3-week strike over pay. Has seen refuse. It's disgusting. Bin walkers walking out indefinitely on March the 11th have gone on strike intermittently in January and February. It's really interesting, because I had Sir John Redwood on earlier, and I wanted to ask him, Kevin, and I just want to get this in now, because people listen at different moments. And I said, a lot of these councils went bankrupt and blamed central government. And was that, you know, that was the easy thing. And he said what many people didn't know, and Birmingham's a prime example, was that councils would get their money from central government, and during the boom years decided to invest in commercial property, and then that fell and they lost money. They almost gambled with the money they were sent by central government, and then their own people have have suffered as a result of that. That's appalling in itself. Birmingham, with the greatest of respect, and I'm an old man, older than you, is beginning to look like the United Kingdom looked at the end of the last Labour government in 1979. I remember it. This was in every city, Kevin. True?
It's absolutely true. And this situation has been totally brought about by the council itself. I know council finances have been tough, but what happened with this council, it struck a deal with Unite back in 2017 to pay some workers extra, and then the unions go and then take it to court for unequal pay for the fact women aren't getting a fair deal. And it's cost the council £1 billion. It's completely self-inflicted. And the frightening thing is, you'd think the Labour Party, which has such links to Unite, they've given the Labour Party tens of millions of pounds. You'd think Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer would step in and sort this out, but they're washing their hands of it. They don't want to get into that battle because it's their union paymasters. The Labour Party is like the political wing of the unions. That's the reality. They won't get involved.
Are you telling me that Keir Starmer or our levelling up housing and community secretary hasn't visited Birmingham yet?
Well, I asked everybody today. I met our councillors, Bobby Alden. I met many other councillors. I met people from the community. Nobody had seen Angela Rayner. Nobody had seen Keir Starmer. You'd think she'd go up there and try and bang some heads together and bring this strike to an end, because it's having devastating consequences. It's already been declared a major incident. It probably should be declared a public health emergency, because there will be illnesses through this. It's completely outrageous. It's totally self-inflicted. The central government, the Labour government, the national government need to step in and sort this out.
I was going to say, I guess you're calling on both of them to get out of Westminster, stop trying to chase a net zero mad dream and do something about the people of Birmingham, right?
It's a disgrace. I mean, this is a proud city. It's our second city. I mean, this stuff has been broadcast around the world. They've had TV stations from Canada to Japan covering this. It's totally wrong. A national embarrassment. People will think this represents the normal situation in the UK, and clearly we know it doesn't. Birmingham was the cleanest city in Britain under the Conservatives. It's now, today, it's the dirtiest city in Britain. It's a total disgrace. The Labour Party itself needs to sort the unions out and sort this dispute out and sort this situation out.
Now, Kevin, I bet you'll know this. I don't know if the listeners will. I mentioned it an hour ago. Do you know who Tahir Ali is?
Tahir Ali, yeah, I do actually. He's a Labour MP, isn't he?
Yes, for Birmingham, for the very area that has rubbish strewn all over the place, where people are on strike, council tax bills have gone through the roof, and there are rats the size of cats. Now, you would expect us, the British public, to hope and prove that our local MP would be doing something about that. Tahir Ali's not doing anything about that. Tahir Ali at the moment is trying to get through Parliament by visiting Pakistan on several occasions. He's trying to raise awareness and money to build build an airport in Kashmir for the Pakistani members of his party, fair enough, a constituency, when they go home, so that they don't have a 3-hour drive from the airport to where they live. I would respectfully suggest, and I'll be slagged off, I'm sure, that Tahrir Ali is the absolute prime example of an MP not doing his job, not blowing smoke up your whatever. But you're there, aren't you, Kevin? You've done the right thing. You've gone to look at it. Where is Tahrir Ali? Why are we bothered about an airport in Kashmir when people in Birmingham can't have their rubbish collected? What's wrong with this country, Kevin?
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, he needs to get his priorities right. We had these statements on this. The government didn't want to talk about this at all. We finally cornered them, and they made a statement on this on Monday. And there was only 3 of the 10 Birmingham Labour MPs in the House to say anything at all. And credit to the ones that did. But the reality is they've got to get the priorities right. Your first responsibility as a constituency MP is to look after your constituents, look after your local area. That's what you're there for. Doing that stuff like that, particularly at any time, to be honest, but particularly at a time where your home city, your constituency is going through this crisis. I mean, you got some people today that were wheeling their wheelie bins for literally 4 miles to get to a refuse centre where they could take this stuff away. And there were people from the community helping out, moving the bags, getting in the back of bin lorries, because the agency workers are still working. It's the Unite workers that won't. Totally wrong. But the Labour MP should have been there with those people today, picking up those bags, sticking in the back of bin lorries, not campaigning for an airport in Kashmir.
And what you're saying is the Labour government so in the pocket of Unite the Union, their paymasters, they're in Westminster, they're not interested. I want to give you one other example, if you don't mind. It's a completely different story, but I'd love your take on this. Today we discover, I mean, another indictment of what's wrong with this country, an Al-Qaeda mastermind linked to the 7/7 bombings. Those attacks is due to walk free, Kevin, in Britain, despite the risk that he causes. The cops have said Haroon Aswat, 50, cannot be fully assessed. He's got mental health issues. We think he's dangerous, and yet he's due to walk free. Where are our priorities, my friend? This is ludicrous,
Crazy.
Man.
Crazy. That man should never be released. I mean, if we don't know he's safe, he should not be released back onto our streets. We are too soft, not just with terrorists, but all kinds of different criminals. We've got to be tougher. There's no way that person should be released back into our streets unless we know he's going to be safe. And you wonder how that's ever going to be the case when you're somebody who's clearly got those kind of radical views. I totally agree with you. That must be inappropriate. And the Justice Secretary, or the Attorney General, or the Prime Minister should act again. You should not be letting this happen. I cannot believe if it'd been a Conservative Justice Secretary, we wouldn't be calling for that person to stay in jail. There are powers that central government has to stop these kind of releases. They should be used.
Kevin, I'm going to ask you my last question. You're good enough to join us from Birmingham. You've shown that you've been to Birmingham. You've shown that you're getting involved in that. You've talked honestly about that terrorist. When you look at what this country is now becoming over the last 9 or 10 months, and let me just say, I had much criticism of your government. I did the last 14 years, many criticisms. But does it not annoy you, frustrate you, anger you and depress you that the Tories let slip that fantastic opportunity in 2019 and we're now faced with this for 5 years? This is on, I'm not being rude to you personally, this is on the Tories, mate. The British public, stop listening to your party, and this shower are going to bankrupt us.
Yes, I agree with what you say. I mean, I could list all the good things we did in those 14 years, but at the end we made some big mistakes, and we deserve to lose in 2024. But the country did not deserve what it's got now. And the Labour Party was never popular, just that we were unpopular. So we'd made those mistakes. I do believe we've got this right now. I do believe we've got the right leader in place. I do believe people are listening to us again. It will take time for people to trust us again, but nothing could be worse than this. So, however bad things are, the Conservatives have solutions for this kind of stuff. Great councillors in Birmingham out there cleaning this stuff up. Bobby Alden and his team, they've got to have confidence in those people. Vote for Labour, or you're going to get more of this kind of rubbish on your streets. Please vote Conservative.
Listen, Kevin Honorate, really good to have you on. Been to Birmingham today, seen what's going on at the Shadow, Levelling Up Housing and Community Secretary. Whatever you think, that is pretty symptomatic of what happened last time when the Labour Party were in power. To me, it's terrifying. What is it, 8 minutes to 7 o'clock?
I think the ID card is something that we need to have that discussion about. I am utterly opposed to the digital ID card process that we had before. Now we take the biometrics of people anyway for passports and so on. I don't have a great deal of a problem with that because that links that document to that individual. But you know, that's as far as I would go.
And of course, it's worth remembering that the government actually did sneak out a digital ID card, didn't it, in the form of the COVID passport?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's 5 to 7. Thank you to Kevin Hollingray. Thank you to everybody who's called. A lot of serious discussion today about Trump's tariffs, about dangerous terrorists being allowed to walk the streets under this government, about Birmingham. It used to be the proud second city, just strewn with rubbish, council tax rates going through the roof, and its local MP flying backwards and forwards to Kashmir to get backing and financial support for an airport. Forget your constituents. But proving that Jeremy Carr's drive show in Talk is eclectic, we also earlier on discovered that Ryan just quietly dropped in that his wife was taking her cat out for a walk on a lead. I thought this was bizarre. Helen in Oxfordshire says it's not bizarre. She said, I walk my Bengal cat on a lead most days like Ryan's wife. He is definitely a cat that thinks he's a dog. She's getting more bizarre by the minute. He gets walked every day around the garden. You're mad as well. Voice note, JW on cats.
Hey, my daughter has a Turkish van cat, and I paid to have the cat trained by a lady in Birmingham who's a professional trainer for animals. Turkish vans are known for being sensitive, and my daughter takes her out on the lead for walks.
Adam, hello.
Oh, hi, Jeremy. How are you?
What? You take a cat on a what?
Oh, I'm with you. It is bizarre.
Bizarre? Bizarre? Cats on leads? Go on then, tell me your story. Cats on leads.
Well, so she's a family cat. So my mother's cat got pregnant, had a litter of kittens. Because she was an indoor cat, my mum was taking her out on lead, the mother. And subsequently, all of the litter that came along with her, they were all fine with it from an early age. So my situation as it currently stands, I live in a flat on a very busy road. So it's not like I could really have her outside, but I feel bad about her not being able to be outside. So I take her on walks with a hope that I'm going to move to a different area where she can be outside again. But it's a temporary solution to a larger problem in that case. But
you've managed to completely diffuse the fact that I found it incredulous that anybody would take their pussy out on a lead. In fact, it seems to be a nationwide pastime. You make a very good point. What?
Well, it's been rather dreadful, actually, because I would consider myself a fairly normal person, but I'd take her around Colchester in Essex, and I've done it frequently enough now that I try to avoid people, as you can imagine.
Yes.
But I'll walk around, and a lady a few weeks ago said, "Oh, look, there's a cat on that man's shoulder." And her friend went, "Oh, yes, that's the cat man of Colchester." Like,
the cat man of Colchester.
Please don't tell me I'm becoming the cat man of Colchester.
Yes, it reminds me somewhat of my best friend, who is quite a successful man, and he was explaining that his daughter got a dog, and he said with all his mates, you know, we're walking around, and this little puffball was called Princess, and he was sort of like, I don't want to say anything because it doesn't really sound like a manly dog. Listen, I obviously don't understand what life's all about. I mean, Ryan, do you take... Thank you very much indeed, Adam. Ryan, do you take your cat out for a walk? But on a lead? You do? Right. Good. OK, obviously I come from a different planet and a different land, and I'm obviously absolutely mad. Chris is in... Oh, he's in... I don't think we've got... Have we got... Chris, I've got 1 minute. What do you want to say? Very quickly. Don't tell me you walk a cat on a lead, please.
My cat won't come anywhere near a lead. I'll tell you that for nothing.
Right. Good. Thank you very much indeed. Sorry, can we get Kev O'Sullivan in? Because Kev is an animal lover. A Brexiteer, a TV critic who still hasn't told me what he thought of Tuesday night's show yet, but he's trying to get his thing in the right place here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it in.
Yeah, there you go. Cats being walked. Nuts.
Cats being walked, yeah. When I was at university, right, I've got a story about this. I shared a room with a very, very gay student called Crawford, and he had like a Persian cat called Anastasia, and we lived in Earl's Court near the King's Road. I still cringe. We used to walk down the King's Road with